Facebook streaming will start soon, and we started recording as well.
Good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. Thank you to Yusuf for making the announcement. And welcome back to all our participants, dedicated experts. This is the third day. I suggest that we wait for another 2 minutes for other colleagues to join. I can see that the numbers are increasing, and it's also kind of a practice that wait for 2 minutes for people to come online due to whatever technical issues. So please bear with us. We will start in 2 minutes time.
Good morning, colleagues.
Good evening, Dakan. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. I just want to let you know that I'm getting some feedbacks from our participants from the another countries. So they are pointing the high level of the organization, and so I just appreciate for your work. Say thank you.
Thanks, Dakan.
So yeah, this the short notice from the feedback from our participants.
Thank you. Thanks, Dakan, for sharing this. Yeah. So feel free to come in during today's session. I'll be moderating, but I will be at your guidance as well if there's anything that we need to adjust according to the schedule.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, it's 2 minutes past. I believe we can start now. Once again, good evening, good afternoon, and also good morning to colleagues and delegates. This is the day 3, the final day of the workshop. I have been following the session the past 2 days. I must say that I'm very much inspired by the excellent presentations and also the advancements of digital government in various countries in Central Asia. There's actually so much to learn from each other, both within the regions, among countries, and also us from the United Nations, learning on the advancements and on the different use of different progress on digital transformation, including the use of new technologies. And yesterday, we also have a very interesting session on design thinking led by our consultant, Dimis. And also on social innovation, and also interesting the presentation by our colleagues on agile project developments, so on and so forth. Today, the last session, not the last session, the second last session in the morning, we'll first start off on strategy and action planning for innovation and digital government transformation. I would like to start off by this poll. If you allow me, and I would really, whatever come to your mind, please respond to the poll in a candid manner. I just launched the poll. We are very much challenged by COVID-19 for the past 18 months, and that have actually given us opportunities to push forward digital transformation, and that also, of course, relate to action planning. So there's no right or wrong answer here, but I would like to see a quick response, and I invite everyone, including experts and also our colleagues that from New York and anyone that in our session here. Please feel free to join. Okay, I just give another maybe 1 minute more. We are about 40% participated. Again, I invite all of us to join. Let me say again, there's no right or wrong answer, but it's actually something for us to think about that we can, as we advance for today's session. Okay, last 10 seconds, if I may, if anyone would like to put in your inputs, please do. Okay, very good. So I think you can see the results now. That's is actually I would say a very good trend that I can see here, that the digital transformation is actually still led by the head of your agency, but no doubt COVID-19 plays an important role. But as I said, there's no right or wrong answer. Interestingly, that the people, those whom we serve, they are actually least rated in this ranking. It's not the right or wrong answer, as I say, but if we look at it, all these three actually plays an important factor. That of course we need the leadership. We also need to listen and to answer to the needs of those whom we serve, and of course we should be the digital transformation should also be resilient and also subject to be responsive to emergencies like the COVID-19. I think that actually turns to a very our very important session today is on action planning. The objective of this session is to undertake action planning for digital government transformation to realize the SDGs. And this is also very much linked to the dimensions of digital capability framework, what we learned the past 2 days. And with that, I'd like to once again introduce our colleague and consultant, Mr. Dimis Michaelis, who is the consultant and also the author and keynote speaker. And his expertise he covers a wide scope, including in leadership, creativity, and innovation. With that, may I pass the floor to Dimis. Over to you, Dimis. You are muted.
Thank you very much, Waimin. Thank you very much. So the topic today, as Waimin said, or to start off, it's how do you make that move from thinking to action, from planning to implementation. And I will share a few thoughts with you, and then I will invite you to a debate. Now, when we have solutions, we are usually dealing with complex problems that do not have one solution. So how do we select the best solution? Let's say we've imagined 5 or 6 different solutions. Well, there are 2 general criteria. The first one is, of course, value. What are the net benefits that this solution will bring, and to whom? So when we say net benefits in financial terms, we usually mean benefits minus costs, and we discount or we multiply by a risk factor. But of course, not all value is financially measurable. And I'll come to additional criteria in a moment. The other general, crucial, important criterion is feasibility. How likely is the successful completion and operation of this solution? How big are the disruptions on the way? And this is important because at the point when you are choosing your best solution, you also take into account capabilities of implementation, as well as possible obstacles that might come in the way. And once again, risks. We think we can do it, or we think there's an obstacle which is this big, but then it turns out to be bigger. So whatever we're doing when we're action planning, when we're doing things for the future, there is always a risk to be taken. More about that later. Now, value and feasibility have trade-offs among themselves. And here is a 2-by-2 matrix. value on the horizontal axis, low or high value, feasibility on the vertical axis, is it difficult or is it easy to implement? Now, low value actions you don't really want to take, and if they're difficult but bring you low value, just don't do them. You should postpone these. This is the bottom left. Top left, again, low value, but they're easy to implement. You should already be taking, you should already have taken this action. And if the value is high and the feasibility is easy to, and it's easy to implement, well, you should be doing it now. What's interesting, and what is usually the case in good projects, is it's not that easy to implement, especially when it's a change project, which needs changes at many levels, at a technical level, at the level of implementation by people, for people. So there's an acceptability thing as well. And you should seriously plan to make actions happen soon. And we're looking for high value actions, and possibly they are difficult, but they're high value. So we want them to happen. Now, in addition to value and feasibility, you may well have other criteria, such as what is the impact on a specific set of people? If we're ensuring that nobody is left behind, we do not just stay with a financial value, but we go and we might decide to carry out projects which are financially, they don't look very good, but in terms of social value, they add a lot. So it's important to think about that as a criterion as well. There might be other factors, important ones. What's the impact of doing this on trust, on transparency? Some of the speakers yesterday touched on these subjects. What is the impact on learning? If this is a project that, in addition to bringing us some efficiencies, it also generally raises people's learning, then it is an important source of value that is very hard to measure. What's the impact on culture? What are the choices of time frames? Sometimes we might prefer something which is fast rather than something which takes longer, or the opposite. And there might be many other criteria, and these will be different according to the specific case and the specific context. Now, if you remember design thinking and the insistence on prototyping, design thinking has a pathway from thinking to action. And in design thinking, the pathway is basically, it's the ones in red. The ones in blue, if we begin from your need, we've done our investigation, our problem definition, human-centered design, we've imagined the solutions, we've selected the best. Now we do a prototype on paper. How might it look? And this, we're still in the lab. It's still in our mind. Until we move to the next one, which is minimum viable product, MVP. This is the rapid prototype. This is where you make a little solution which is, you know is not good, you know it's not perfect, you know it's not complete, but it's ready to test things. So you do a small scale release of that, maybe to a few people, maybe for a very limited time period, and that's what you're piloting, your minimum viable product. You improve it, you change it, and then you release it, and your product or service, your solution goes live. when it's live, it's not the end. It's quite often technical specialists will often say, well, that's the beta version. So you need to improve, and improve is the next stage where you're fine-tuning, but you are also continuously improving on your product or on your service. You are fine-tuning, you're discovering new things about your users, your stakeholders, you're discovering new things about your own capacities. And all these you have to continuously improve over time. Then we go to the possibility that, well, maybe we have to go back if we're not delivering what we promised. And finally, there is an end for most solutions. So do not be afraid to stop, to retire a project and go to a new one, either to a new, bigger or different problem, or to a new solution for what you already have. Now, action planning. What's an action plan? It's a journey in itself. From the moment you make a decision of implementing a project, then you are beginning a journey. There are good action plans and bad action plans. So what's a good action plan? It's a live document. It gets reviewed, it gets updated on a continuous basis. And if there are changes in the context, a good action plan has to be ready to take on whatever new realities there may be. Key components of an action plan, I am sure you have all, at some point in your careers, at some point in your professional lives, you have been called to implement an action plan. You will know that any big action, any big solution needs to be broken up in a series of action steps. What do we need to make happen? What needs to happen to achieve this goal? And for each of these steps, whose job is it to deliver, to perform the task? And also, who will support? Sometimes it's the same person, sometimes it's not. Then there's ownership. Who is generally responsible and accountable for ensuring a good and timely completion, not just of the task, of the action step, but of the whole action plan? And who's responsible for corrective action when things go wrong, if that is necessary? And quite often, responsibility and ownership, especially for big projects, they're not necessarily in the hands of the same person. And of course, you need a time frame. If you don't have a calendar, it's not an action plan. So I think these are the most important steps: who's responsible, who owns it, and when is it going to be done? When is it going to be delivered? There are more. We have to, of course, consider what our resources are. What do we need to really complete this task? Some of the resources are financial, others are human. There might be others still dealing with suppliers, with vendors, and other partners, for example. Key performance indicators. It's important when you're doing your action plan to have the performance indicators conceptualized, and actually more than conceptualized. You have to be able to have some measurement of value, and that will indicate how effectively you've achieved your goal. So your KPIs, what are they and how do you measure them? How do you know you're doing a good job? How do you know you've done a good job at the end? And finally, especially in big transformational projects, you have to have good quality information sharing. And this is basically a communication plan to keep people involved, all the people involved, to keep them aware, to let people know what is going on. And once again, especially if the project is big. Now, I've been speaking quite a lot. I would like to invite you to participate in a debate. And I will put in a provocative subject as a debate. Yesterday, you practiced how to use a whiteboard. So now you know how to do it technically. If you have any questions, please ask them. Our translators will help. And here is the provocative question. Imagine we are debating this. Organizations should encourage people to make mistakes and take risks. This is an extreme position. Organizations, public service, public organizations as well, should encourage people to make mistakes and to take risks. I will ask you, please, if you agree, irrespective of whether you agree or don't agree, to write whatever arguments you can think of that give a yes answer. Yes, organizations should encourage people to make mistakes and take risks. And please write these on the left side of the board. Put them in as text. So you all have the floor now. Imagine you are a lawyer and you have to come out and defend the argument. We must encourage people to make mistakes and take risks. Please defend and write all the arguments under yes. Thank you very much, KZ team. More opportunities increase responsibility. Thank you. Let's have some more. This is from, it came from Asset. Just to remind you, you click on the toolbar, on the text toolbar, you position it on the left and give arguments for making mistakes and taking risks. Indira is about to write something. No. Okay, we have one that perfect methods can be developed from mistakes. Excellent.
Excuse me, Demis, I don't know how to use this whiteboard, but can you just write my opinion? Because it's yes, because it creates the managing of by opportunities. So this is a...
So it creates management of opportunities?
Yes, because actually we have to learn some experience, and the experience can be done from the opportunities which we already saw. And I mean that the question is that we have to manage by developed opportunities. So.
Okay. So I'm writing, we develop by creating opportunities.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would. So.
Is that okay? And we have another one says it depends on the cost of making mistakes. I'm going to put this in the middle. Wai Min is saying, yes, institutions should do more experimentation and mistakes are unavoidable. There's another one. If employees feel responsible, the quality of work in the organization will improve. You see, if you blame people, then of course they will be afraid, they will be risk averse, right? Can somebody translate this one for me? This one at the bottom left.
Yes, because
okay, so we encourage them to
box.
think outside the box, and there is a cost there. They might make mistakes. I would like to add one myself here. Making mistakes greatly improves learning. And you really can't learn if you haven't made mistakes. Here is a bigger comment. Here's a bigger comment now. Without making mistakes, we are limiting ourselves with one idea that could not be improved. And as a result, we cannot learn things that might have brought greater value to the project or the problem that our solution is aimed at resolving. Thank you very much. So this is also linked to learning, and with a yes, you get, when you allow risks, then you can definitely increase the learning, which is very valuable. Okay, now I'm going to ask you, I will ask you all to put the no arguments down. Imagine that you are now a lawyer who wants to say, no, we must not encourage risks. It's very bad to encourage risks. Would you please add your arguments under the no? So under the right side of the board. So why should organizations not encourage people to make mistakes and take risks? Let's have a few arguments against. Here are some, they're coming in. Mistakes and risks can be very costly. Of course. And if the cost might even be enormous. We don't want to encourage mistakes when we want to deliver a standardized procedure that's already there. Thank you for this contribution. Can I have a few more no's?
Maybe no willingness to be responsible?
Okay, I'll write it in for you. So I will say something like decreases the willingness of being responsible,
Yeah,
of taking
being
responsibility.
responsible. Yeah, of taking responsibility.
Okay.
Just something like the freight, yeah.
Okay. What other reasons might be might exist for not taking risks?
Not enough competencies, not enough knowledge. Yeah.
Okay. And that's important. We don't have the knowledge or the competencies. So we shouldn't take risks when we really know nothing about this. We don't want to be like children who are playing with dynamite, right? When we don't know anything about firearms or dynamite. I'm using this as a strong metaphor. So when we really don't know what we're talking about, there is one on the top right that is in Russian. Could somebody translate it for me? Top right. Yes, mistakes can lead to very sad consequences.
Yes.
And there's one, losing people's. So would it be losing people's trust? If it is losing people's...
Yes, Dimis, yeah, that's me. I'm typing halfway. It's losing people trust and confidence. I will complete this.
Right. If we're continuously making mistakes, continuously taking risks, and we're failing all the time, then you're not trustworthy anymore. These guys are great at making mistakes, but they're not good at making things happen. So what does this tell us? If you would like to speak, please do. You have a picture here of some pros and cons of encouraging people to make mistakes and take risks. So do you have any comments on what you see on the board? Perhaps we should concentrate a little bit on this one in the middle. It depends on the cost of making mistakes. So it's very extreme to say, let's go out and make mistakes all the time. But it's also very extreme to say, no, we should never make mistakes or take risks. So I don't know how much risk you and your organization can take. But I do know that if you want to change things, you can't do it at zero risk. And I would like to go back to my presentation, unless, does anybody want to make any remark at this point?
That means that anywhere or anytime we have to do the cost-benefit analysis, because this is the questions which we just arised from your presentations, because nobody can do something if he or she don't account something. Yes, because we are extremely have to be focused for the goal and for the task which we have created or developed in our project. And it's definitely have to follow us for the ways to achieving the goal and just developed or just doing the task which we already developed into our projects. This is the questions of the project management, exactly. So because what is the real goal of the project management? Just we have to achieve the results. Will it be our project successful or not successful? It extremely depends on about the management. And this is the questions of the skill. This is the questions of competencies. And of course, this is the questions of the resources, because just have to mind that we have to do about resources, we have to do about the financing, and also we have to do about the agenda of our project. So this is a process, and actually we have to do and manage by this process.
So we cannot avoid considering risk. We have to. There was a comment from Facebook: analyzing mistakes gives you insight, gives you learning, and it helps you move on. So risk is not neutral. We can take all risks anytime. We must never take risks. If you want change, and any innovation project, any digital transformation project is about change. I will come to this later in the day. But here, there is a final comment here. No, because there might be some crucial issues that will worsen the situation. So there's something that says, let's go, let's do the unknown. And there's another voice that's saying, yeah, let's be careful, let's be careful, let's be careful. Both are important. I will stop sharing the whiteboard, and I will go back to my PowerPoint. Now, innovation thrives in an environment where people can take reasonable risks. What is a reasonable risk? It's not easy, because not everything in the future is measurable with accuracy. However, when a risk can lead to catastrophe, zero tolerance for mistakes is necessary. If you are responsible for the security in a nuclear power plant, you have zero tolerance for mistakes. If you're landing a plane, you don't want the pilot who will land your plane to say, oh, now I'm going to take a risk and try to land it a little bit in a different way. So if the possible outcome is a catastrophe, then we're very careful. But most circumstances, most of our digital transformation projects, luckily, are not like this. And somebody noted that when you have to follow procedure, then it has to be a no in taking risks in many cases. So it's a balancing act, but zero risk is not possible. We have to be ready to take these risks. And there are ways of mitigating these risks, of making them more manageable. One of them is actually very close to innovation, the idea of innovation labs. It's a defined space, which can be physical or virtual or both, with dedicated facilities and resources to nurture new ideas. And that includes new and emerging technologies. And some excellent examples are an alliance to promote mobility technology in Chile, a network of networks in Europe with a focus on regional digital initiatives, and a K-Lab in Rwanda, which was nurturing entrepreneurs to promote innovative ICT solutions. So it's when we really are taking also these, to an extent, we're taking these steps from let's try it out with a minimum viable product, let's move on to a prototype, etc. That certainly is risk reducing, rather than having something completely ready, we think it's perfect, launching it and having it fail. And two other risk mitigating mechanisms are a regulatory sandbox, in which it's like putting a box under around an initiative. So you're testing it under very specific conditions and with time limitations. And a little bit quite similar to this is the policy experiment, where you are testing a policy, but you might be testing it not as a whole in a specific area, and then again within a limited time scale. So these are all risk mitigating strategies. When you are my age, you're allowed to tell stories. I would like to tell you a story, which is a very personal story of my own. When I began my career, I was working in France, which is not my country. I'm from Cyprus. I was British educated, and I started work as a product manager in an agrochemicals firm. And they gave me a new product to launch. And I was young, I was 26 at the time. I figured out new ways of packaging it, new ways of selling it to farmers, the different ways of communicating, of pricing the products. And then at the end of the campaign, the product failed. We sold about 50% of what we thought we would, so I lost them quite a bit of money. And at the end of the campaign, I asked all the people, the market researchers, the sales manager, production people, to get together and give an account to our general manager. He invited us. He said, tell us what's going on. And I started making a presentation. This went wrong and this went wrong. And after just 1 minute, my general manager said, Dimis, stop, he said. We know what went wrong. You tried to change too many things at the same time. So let's go out. I'll take you all to lunch. And he took us out to lunch to a very exclusive restaurant in Paris. At the time, it had 3 Michelin stars. I remember I was young and very impressed. And that time I realized how lucky I was. I had a general manager who not only did not shout at me or did not express his discontent, he said, let's go out and celebrate this failure. And in another company, they would have told me to stop managing products, or don't let this guy touch a new product launch or whatever. But the general manager asked me to launch another product the next year, and I'm very proud to say that that became the best-selling product of the 1980s. That's how old I am. I thank you all very much for your attention and for participating in the debate.
Thank you, Dimis. I would like to thank you, and also for introducing the concept about policy experimentation and regulatory sandboxes. In fact, if I may, I'd like to say that that is actually one of the development account project that UNDESA has initiated, and we are also partnering with Kazakhstan, and we also hope to share the experience with other countries here, precisely on policy experimentation and regulatory sandboxes, in particular in the use of new technologies, including in responding to COVID-19. Also, a quick response to you, one interesting concept that we increasingly hear from countries in digital transformation is MVP, the minimum viable product, that is a service or product with just enough features to be usable by people. And we see there's a lot of such development during COVID-19, again, because of the urgency of the need to rely on digital services. So thank you. I think your presentation and also the interaction was very well received. I would like to advance to our next agenda.
I mean, may I interrupt for a second?
Sure, of course.
Would you mind if I ask Dimis to share whiteboard again so we can save all the ideas, if that's possible?
Yes, thank you. That's a good idea. And thanks, Dimis. And I also invite colleagues here, if you like, you can take a screenshot on your own, but we will capture this in our reports so that it's actually a collective wisdom here shared by delegates. So that is actually very useful.
Thank you very much. I saved it.
Okay, thanks again, Dimis. Thank you. And we will hear more from you later. With that, let me advance to the next agenda. I would like to ask if our colleague from Tajikistan is online. If you are, please on your video and audio. I could not really see your name there. Mr. Pirov Abubak. Ayazan, if you are there, or Apine, if you can help me if our colleague from Tajikistan is here.
Ayazan, I would probably defer it to you.
Thank you, Arpine. Yes, Абу Бакр, Пиров, коллеги из Таджикистана, прошу ответить. Скорее всего, они еще имеют проблемы с подключением, но в целом сегодня должна быть презентация коллег с Таджикистана. Абу Бакр Пиров, прошу вас ответить, если вы нас слышите.
У них обычно часто бывают, да, проблемы с подключением. Может быть, тогда на следующего перейдем.
Sure. Yes. Right. Okay. Thank you. We hope to hear from our colleague from Tajikistan soon. So if I may, let us advance to the next agenda item. We are very honored to have our next speaker, Ms. Agui Kosherbayeva. I hope I get the pronunciation correct. Ms. Kosherbayeva has just been appointed as the member of the Committee of Experts of Public Administration. That is a subsidiary body of the Economic and Social Council. So, and that is actually giving advice to the United Nations on issues related to public administration. In short, the body SEPA is very important. It's serviced by our division for public institution and digital governments, and we are very much guided by the work of SEPA. Just a brief introduction. Ms. Kosherbayeva is currently the Vice Director for Strategic Developments, Research and International Partnership at the Academy of Public Administration of Kazakhstan. In addition, she has held various positions at the Academy of Public Administration, including as Director of the Institute for Applied Research, Deputy Rector of Strategic Developments, Research and International Partnership, and Professor at the Institute of Management. She has also held several positions at the Economic Research Institute of the Ministry of National Economy of Kazakhstan, including as Director of the Center for World Economy and Integration Studies, and as Director of the Center for Regional and Social Analysis. With that, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Kosherbayeva. Over to you, please.
So long introduction, and yeah, thank you very much for your introducing me. So, and actually, it's really, I'm really pleasure to be as a part of today's workshop, because it's a very actual and it's very real question just which arise in many countries, especially in the era of globalization and digitalization, because you know that in the era of the pandemic, everyone, each of us actually are very touchable for the questions of the digitalization, how we can communicate, how we can do our usual activity, etc., etc. And that is why I prepare my presentations about the public service delivery in the Republic of Kazakhstan. May I do my presentations in Russian, because I did it in Russian, but there is some interpreters.
Certainly.
And, yeah, and that is why but anyway, just if you will have some questions, I will do the answers in both languages if you want. Yeah. Is it clear just with my presentation?
Yes, we can see your presentation. If you can put it to, yep, okay, that's good.
Yeah, sure.
Very well. We can see that. Please go ahead.
Окей, добрый вечер, уважаемые коллеги. Я сделаю небольшую презентацию. В принципе, в течение вот последних 2 дней было очень много сказано о том, каким образом развивается сектор государственных услуг в странах Центральной Азии. Мы слышали прекрасные презентации и представителей Организации Объединенных Наций о том, каким образом трансформировать необходимо государственные услуги в эпоху цифровизации. Но моя презентация, она, может быть, в каких-то моментах будет повторять кейсы, которые были уже услышаны на протяжении последних 2 дней, но я это сделаю, может быть, с небольшим акцентом, потому что, как вы знаете, я работаю в Академии государственного управления при президенте Республики Казахстан, и у нас есть и мы работаем совместно с агентством по делам государственной службы, одной из функций которого как раз-таки является мониторинг качества предоставления государственных услуг. И вот такая вот тесная работа с нашими партнерами, агентством или нашим уполномоченным органом, она позволяет нам иметь определенную информацию из первых уст для того, чтобы судить о том, насколько быстро, насколько эффективно развивается сектор государственных услуг в Казахстане. Но если смотреть в целом, то я хотела бы начать с нормативно-правовой базы, потому что, как и в любой другой стране, самое главное, должна быть какая-то основа, должен быть определенный стержень. Так вот, государственные услуги в Казахстане, они регулируются специальным законом о государственных услугах, который сейчас представлен у нас в нашей нормативно-правовой базе. Последние изменения в этот закон, они были внесены в начале этого года. Как вы можете посмотреть, это буквально было 2 января 2021 года. О чем это свидетельствует? Это свидетельствует именно о том, что постоянно происходит мониторинг того, что делается в повседневной текущей деятельности страны. И если возникает, вот сейчас предыдущий докладчик очень хорошо сказал о том, что мы всегда должны принимать во внимание определенные риски, так вот я хотела бы сказать, что когда производятся изменения и внесение изменений в какой-либо закон, то это есть не что иное, как раз-таки работа с уроками. Это извлеченные уроки, которые позволяют вносить уже в какой-то регулирующий документ определенные изменения, чтобы дальше ошибок и определенных рисков специальный реестр государственных услуг. Я здесь привела ссылку, где это можно посмотреть. Данный реестр это представлен в матричной форме, где вы можете ознакомиться с очень большим длинным списком всех тех услуг, которые носят статус государственных услуг. Если говорить о сфере предоставления государственных услуг, то, как правило, есть очень много каналов, посредством которых идет предоставление. Самый главный канал, наверное, это то, что он может представляться непосредственно услугодателями, подуслугодателями. В данном случае мы понимаем все правительственные органы и учреждения. Это достаточно длинный список, поэтому я его обозначила нашим уважаемым гербом. То есть, и вы можете посмотреть, что на сайте e.gov.kz как раз-таки существует и представлен перечень всех государственных организаций, всех уполномоченных органов, которые предоставляют те или иные услуги. Второй канал предоставления – это, конечно же, государственная корпорация, правительство для граждан, которое тоже как бы имеет свой определенный сайт, там тоже представлены все перечни услуг. Это является одним из таких вот очень важных новшеств, которые существуют у нас в Казахстане, потому что это позволяет оптимизировать сферу предоставления государственных услуг из одного окна. Ну и, конечно же, более ранняя версия – это когда мы говорим именно об электронном правительстве, которое имеет свой веб-портал. И здесь, если вы зайдете на сайт e.gov.kz, то можно будет ознакомиться, я часто буду к нему обращаться, со всем тем перечнем услуг, которые сейчас можно заказывать, не выходя из дома. Для этого достаточно иметь электронную цифровую подпись, или сейчас у нас уже на протяжении последних, в общем-то, 1,5 лет используется еще более удобная версия. Об этом в свое время говорила еще представитель агентства по делам государственной службы, в том, что для большего удобства и комфортности в использовании как бы веб-портала «Электронное правительство», а сейчас и мобильного приложения e.gov, нужно использовать систему одноразовых паролей. То есть это СМС-пароли, которые мы можем получить посредством того, что обозначаем свой индивидуальный идентификационный номер и так далее. Таким образом, вот это вот каналы, либо посредством стационарного абонентского условия. Как правило, в законе, когда у нас, вы посмотрите более внимательно закон о государственных услугах, у нас расписаны всегда права и обязанности. То есть услугополучатели – это все граждане, которые в той или иной степени рассчитывают получить определенные услуги. Например, засвидетельствовать рождение ребенка. Или поставить там, допустим, ребенка в очередь на детский сад. Либо же, допустим, мне необходимо получить бронирование на очередь в электронное правительство, то есть в ЦОНы, для того, чтобы получить свои какие-то основные документы, паспорт, свидетельство о рождении и так далее и тому подобное. Вот эти вот вещи, они могут быть сделаны сейчас абсолютно в электронном формате. Единственное, что мы имеем право как услугополучатели. Конечно же, мы должны иметь право получить информацию в любом порядке, и эта информация должна следовать принципу достоверности. Мы можем получить государственную услугу в той форме, которая для нас удобна. То есть это может быть либо в электронном формате, либо же в бумажной форме. И поэтому это прописывается и, как правило, идет на усмотрение услугополучателя. Мы можем обсуждать различные проекты стандартов госуслуг, мы можем обжаловать действия и решения местных исполнительных органов, центральных государственных органов, и обычно это делается на основании специальных обращений, которые поступают на сайты, и контроль и рассмотрение этих обращений, оно осуществляется агентством по делам государственной службы. То есть они, как правило, всегда ведут статистику по количеству обращений, сколько поступило обращений, сколько из них как бы рассмотрено, сколько направлено по подведомственным организациям, то есть в те органы, в отношении которых поступили эти жалобы или обращения, ну и так далее. То есть таких действий может быть очень много, и, как правило, они всегда должны быть рассмотрены. Если мы говорим с точки зрения услугодателя, то есть это, конечно же, сами государственные органы, то существует очень большой перечень всех тех обязательств, которые он должен делать. Я не буду их всех перечислять, я просто хочу сказать, что самое важное, на что должен обращать внимание или чему обязан следовать услугодатель, это, конечно же, предоставление полной и достоверной информации и оказание услуг строго в соответствии со стандартами. То есть, потому что существует такой термин, как качество государственной услуги. Так вот, когда проводится анализ и, как бы скажем, вот всех вот этих вот действий по количеству полученных услуг, по количеству оказанных услуг, то основное внимание, на что обращает внимание, например, агентство, это же качество полученной осуществленной услуги. То есть листинг, как вы можете заметить, он достаточно длинный, я не буду на нем останавливаться, просто хотела сказать, что я не зря обратилась к термину качество оказания услуг, потому что качество оказания услуг в нашей стране в соответствии с законом, оно как бы осуществляется двумя основными уполномоченными организациями. Это, конечно же, Агентство по делам государственной службы, когда она делает общий свод по государственным услугам в части рассмотрения обращений, в части контрольных мероприятий, в части административной практики и выявленных нарушений. То есть вот это вот как бы 4 основных блока, по которым ведет свою работу Агентство по делам государственной службы. У них есть специальное структурное подразделение, департамент по государственным услугам, и они, как бы скажем, всегда вот эти вот вещи мониторят, где работают с территориальными департаментами во всех 16 регионах Казахстана, плюс город Нур-Султан. Что касается Министерства цифрового развития, инноваций и аэрокосмической промышленности, то это как бы основной уполномоченный орган, который оказывает и ведет всю работу. Вот, ну, мы об этом на протяжении последних 2 дней очень прекрасно слышали. Это электронные услуги. Все то, что мы называем онлайн-форматом, все то, что мы называем цифровизацией, то есть это все, в принципе, относится к ЦИФРОВЕЕ. И вкупе, когда работа 2 органов, она сливается, у нас получается качество оказания государственной услуги. И вот за вопросы качества отвечают вот именно вот эти 2 уполномоченных органа. Хотелось бы, наверное, более подробнее остановиться именно на оценке контроля за качеством оказания госуслуг. Как я уже сказала, здесь уполномоченным органом является Агентство по делам государственной службы. Ни в коем случае не претендуя на то, что я раскрываю функционал работы данного агентства, я просто бы хотела сказать, что у них существует вот этот вот специальный департамент, и, как вы видите, очень большая работа здесь идет именно в части того, что нужно совершенствовать систему оценки качества оказания государственных услуг. Как правило, это делается на основании замера всех рассмотренных обращений. Делаются очень хорошие отчеты и заключения о результатах оценки. Причем эта работа, она делается на постоянной основе. Вы можете себе представить, то есть у нас существуют территориальные департаменты агентства, которые на местах, то есть на уровне местных исполнительных органов власти, делают замеры и оценки вот качества предоставляемых государственных услуг. Это тоже очень большая скрупулезная работа. И вот здесь, вот как бы скажем, задача Центрального департамента, она заключается именно в оценке качества оказанных государственных услуг, за исключением госуслуг, которые оказываются в электронной форме. То есть это я уже сказала. Что еще очень важно здесь, когда вот я обращалась и внимательно анализировала работу как бы агентства, здесь очень важное внимание нужно говорить на рассмотрение обращений физических и юридических лиц. Вы знаете, что в Казахстане принята концепция слышащего государства, принята концепция государственного управления до 2030 года, где основным лейтмотивом является человекоцентричная модель. И вот именно когда мы говорим о человекоцентричном подходе, очень важно обращать внимание на то, существует ли фидбэк, существует ли обратная связь от основных услугополучателей для того, чтобы вовремя извлекать уроки, прослеживать риски, возможно их оценивать или не допускать. То есть, таким образом это делается на уровне качества услуг. Немного статистики. Я, к сожалению, не успела сделать как бы динамику госуслуг, оказанных как бы государственными органами, просто обратилась к цифрам, которые были по итогам 2020 года. Вы можете посмотреть, что всего в 2020 году госорганами было оказано порядка 191 миллиона услуг. Это именно услуг в штучном формате, да? По сравнению с 2019 годом увеличение идет где-то на 2 миллиона. И вы можете посмотреть, что из них где-то порядка 85% это были услуги, которые оказывались в электронном виде. По сравнению с 2019 годом мы видим определенный рост на 7%, то есть в 2019 году это было порядка 79%, то сейчас мы уже имеем 85%. И одним из таких вот лейтмотивов того, что госуслуги, полученные в электронном формате, как раз является, ну, может быть, вот этот вот побуждающий или мотивирующий фактор. К сожалению, может быть, с точки зрения именно ментального, психологического состояния, это не очень хорошо, что это была пандемия. которая вынуждала нас сидеть дома, локдауны и все соответствующие карантины, но тем не менее это в большей степени сподвигло, как бы скажем, практически все государственные организации, а также наши уважаемые электронное правительство и правительство для граждан перевести очень многие форматы услуг в формат digital. То есть и это стало удобно, это стало, как бы скажем, эффективно. И на самом деле, когда, например, вот мой личный экспириенс, у меня в прошлом году вдруг закончился срок действия моей электронной цифровой подписи, то, ну, как это обычно бывает у любого человека, в порыве паники ты думаешь, что же делать, что же делать. Нет, я зашла просто на сайт ИГОВ, и через видеосвязь я очень спокойно обновила себе свою электронную цифровую подпись, и таким образом для меня это стало очень удобно, потому что ранее мне необходимо было идти в ЦОНы, бронировать очередь, заполнять кучу заявлений и таким образом как бы получать электронную цифровую подпись. А сейчас я могу посредством видеосвязи все это быстро себе получить на компьютер, и если сделать замер по времени, то есть такой таймер поставить, на все про все у меня ушло 20 минут. То есть для меня это очень удобно. Ранее я потратила бы на это, ну, где-то, наверное, порядка 4 часов. Пока доехала, пока встала в очередь и так далее. Это фактически как бы результат того, что мы видим, что электронные госуслуги сейчас они превалируют. Очень важно также сказать, что в целом, когда мы говорим о очень важной миссии и деятельности агентства по делам госслужбы, они всегда, как бы скажем, акцентируют внимание на том, что, возможно, существует определенное несоответствие между отраслевыми правилами, стандартами, регламентами каких-то государственных услуг. И вот по итогам, например, об этом неоднократно заявляло как бы само агентство. В частности, было несколько брифингов и интервью с председателем агентства Анар Нуралиевной. Я хотела бы сказать, что вот как раз-таки вот это как бы цифры, которые подтверждены самим агентством. В 2019 году, например, было установлено более 180 несоответствий между стандартами и правилами. На сегодняшний день они все устранены. То есть это, как бы скажем, те вызовы, которые находит агентство или риски, и они начинают приниматься. Или еще один кейс, когда мы говорили о том, что в закон по инициативе агентства были внесены какие-то определенные поправки, которые предусматривали единые нормативные правовые акты, в частности, единые правила оказания госуслуг. Что в условиях, как бы скажем, какой-то вот унифицированной страны, это очень важно, чтобы мы руководствовались каким-то единым документом. Ну, таких как бы примеров может быть очень много. Есть определенные примеры, которые, когда на основании тех инициатив, которые идут совместно со стороны как НЦРИАПа, так и со стороны агентства, и нашей уважаемой Национальной палаты предпринимателей Атамикен, происходит, как бы, скажем, такая инициатива, когда Red Tape Challenge, как бы я достаточно много читала о том, что это есть аналог британской инициативы, и сейчас, как бы, эта инициатива, она получает свое развитие у нас в Казахстане, когда создана специальная межведомственная рабочая группа. В чем ее смысл? Смысл в систематическом скрининге госуслуг с учетом мнения услугополучателей. Обратная связь, слышащее государство. Или, например, проект «Эндау». Вот буквально, опять-таки, на днях, когда я разговаривала тоже с представителями нашего агентства, сейчас очень большое внимание уделяется именно созданию вот специальной диалоговой площадки, где могли бы быть рассказаны опыты о том, что нужно делать в части оптимизации, совершенствования сферы государственных услуг. Я, в принципе, как бы являюсь членом этой рабочей группы и хотела бы как бы наших коллег, если у вас есть интересные тезисы, интересные проекты, которыми вы хотите поделиться в части того, как нам необходимо развивать сферу государственных услуг, то, конечно же, мои контакты есть у организаторов. Я приглашаю вас к тому, чтобы быть услышанными. Эта площадка, она будет функционировать на базе Академии государственного управления при президенте Республики Казахстан. Мы работаем как в офлайн, так и онлайн формате, и, в принципе, для этого существует соответствующая инфраструктура, поэтому любое мнение, оно для нас интересно. Потом все это трансформируется, структурируется в определенные предложения, которыми мы с удовольствием будем делиться. Как с вами, уважаемые коллеги, так, собственно, и с основными стейкхолдерами. Вот эти вот вопросы, они важны. Ну и, конечно же, я не могла обойти вниманием тот факт, что Казахстан на сегодняшний день по итогам 2020 года, вы знаете, что есть специальный рейтинг ООН по уровню развития электронного правительства, здесь сидят наши коллеги с ООН, мы сейчас по итогам 2020 года занимаем 29 место среди 193 стран. То есть находимся в первом квартале, для нас это очень почетно, и с другой стороны это очень ответственно, потому что здесь как бы это признание тех достижений и тех усилий, которые были реализованы для того, чтобы услугополучатели получали более комфортный доступ к государственным услугам. Ну, не буду как бы здесь останавливаться, просто хотелось бы сказать, что Казахстан имеет класс оценки V3, это очень высокий как бы уровень, здесь у нас трансформируется по нескольким каналам, и просто здесь хотелось бы отметить, что в принципе для нас, наверное, это действительно очень важно, когда имея высокие показатели, тем не менее, ты не должен откатываться назад. То есть есть бенчмарки, к которым мы стремимся дальше и будем их развивать. И буквально несколько слов, которые я хотела бы посвятить кейс-стадии. Есть, поскольку сессия, она в любом случае затрагивает еще вопросы доступа к инфокоммуникационным технологиям для людей с определенными потребностями, то есть я просмотрела как бы общие критерии, которые вообще в мире предъявляются к такой категории доступа. В данной таблице есть вот представлены несколько категорий людей, например, люди с ограниченными возможностями здоровья. Давайте рассмотрим именно эту категорию. В какой помощи они прежде всего нуждаются? Они нуждаются в доступности, они нуждаются в доступной и дешевой технике, в обучающих программах и ассистивных технологиях. Так вот, если как бы делать своего рода чек-лист с точки зрения инклюзии, которая у нас сейчас представлена на нашем сайте, я хотела бы обеспечить, наверное, такой вот кейс, что у нас граждане как бы с ограниченными возможностями, первой, второй, третьей группы, дети-инвалиды, они могут получать услуги, которые их интересуют через специальный портал социальных услуг, который запущен в работу Министерством труда и социальной защиты населения. Он работает с 1 января 2020 года. Здесь приведена ссылка, и вы можете посмотреть, что данный портал, он подтверждается цифровкой 5 процессов из 6, кроме услуг инватакси. Здесь представлены как бы фотоскрины, например, если вы интересуетесь услугами как бы для получения, как бы, для того, чтобы оформить документы ну, для лиц как бы с особыми потребностями, услуги индивидуального помощника, например, услуги в передвижении, специалистов жестового языка, это все можно оформить в принципе через эти сайты. Здесь приведены как бы ссылки на эти сайты. Есть даже специальный сайт, который занимается на ИГОВе сурдопереводом, то есть там тоже можно заказать вопросы, связанные с предоставлением специального госпособия и, соответственно, где это можно получить. Как правило, здесь написано, что лица с особыми потребностями, они могут дистанционно заказывать 24 из 55 видов технических средств реабилитации и специальные социальные услуги в государственных учреждениях. Или, например, еще вот абсолютно шикарный кейс, на мой взгляд, те молодые люди, которые только вступили в брак, или у которых недавно родился ребенок, они уже имеют все преимущества от использования этой услуги, потому что, ну, так, немножечко отклоняясь от нашей темы, просто скажу, что в мое время, когда у меня появлялись дети, нам приходилось как бы ходить непосредственно в ЗАГСы, заказывать, как бы писать заявление, получать свидетельство о рождении, и все это делалось пешком, да, все это делалось между учреждениями, между зданиями. Потеря времени, потеря определенных, как бы, скажем, ну, может быть, ты где-то устаешь, да, а дома кричит ребенок. Сейчас мы очень большое спасибо, как бы, скажем, за то, что у нас разработана вот эта вот композитная услуга рождения ребенка. То есть это 3 в 1. когда каждая из которых обрабатывается последовательно по мере готовности. Здесь приведена ссылка на сайт, вы можете посмотреть. Услуга заказывается онлайн или она может быть предоставлена в проактивной форме. То есть вы можете одновременно зарегистрировать рождение ребенка, вы можете получить сразу, назначить заявление на назначение пособия на рождение ребенка, и постепенно, по мере необходимости, вас тут же, вашего ребенка, тут же могут поставить на очередь в детскую дошкольную организацию, то есть то, что мы называем детскими садами. Вы видите результаты этих услуг, и это, но, на мой взгляд, это абсолютно удобная штука, вот, и она может в данный момент времени, спасибо НТЭКу, потому что они еще сделали вот эту же услугу проактивной, когда вы ее можете, являясь владельцем сотового телефона, в данном случае смартфона, очень многие сейчас подписаны на каналы Telegram-бот, сделать эту же, получить эту же услугу с помощью ИГОВки и Z-бот-канал. То есть вот такие вещи, они на сегодняшний день, мне кажется, являются одними из таких вот ярких примеров того, что мы называем нашим, ну я не знаю, хорошим как бы продвижением электронных, прежде всего, государственных услуг. И вот на этом кейсе я хотела бы завершить. Но, если честно, количество кейсов, оно может быть рассказано гораздо больше. Просто сейчас, ограничиваясь во времени, я на этом не буду сказать. Есть ссылки, на которых я приводила. Просто очень хотелось бы призвать как бы всех коллег, в том числе наших страновых партнеров, к тому, чтобы мы действительно создали эффективную диалоговую площадку. Сегодняшний семинар, он является одним из первых степов на пути к тому, чтобы проблема всегда обсуждалась. То есть, когда проблема обсуждается или вопрос обсуждается, из него вырастает решение. И поэтому самое главное, чтобы вот это вот наше решение, оно получало свое развитие, и мы только оптимизировали, совершенствовали сферу public services. Большое спасибо.
Thank you, Ms. Koshibayeva. Thank you for sharing this comprehensive and also holistic approach of government of Kazakhstan in public service delivery. I think we have gained a lot of insights in your presentation. Let us move on with the agenda. I'm not sure if our colleague from Tajikistan is online.
I mean, yes, I don't see him here, Mr. Abubakar Pirov. He informed us that he is having some technical issues with connecting. So that's why.
Yeah, so let's if we see him online later, we'll give him the floor. So allow us to move on. And the next item, according to our program, we will hear from our colleague from UN DESA, Keping Yao. Keping did a presentation on first day. He's going to join us again and to share with us more on action planning. The specific topic that he will share with us is on entry points for action planning. That is part of the Digital Government Capability Assessment, or DGCA in short. Keping, if you are online, can I give the floor to you?
Yes, thank you, Wemi. Yeah. So I would like to thank Yusuf to play the slides for me. Yeah. Yusuf, can you put on the slides? Yes. Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. So on Tuesday that we assigned some homework to you, that we decide to, how to say, pick up the questions for the 3 dimensions, for the leadership and the governance technology, and also we also received some responses, although not all the country participants did the exercise. So I really thank those people who take time to filling out those questions. Yeah, next please. As I mentioned that this DGCA framework, this assessment is have 6 dimensions: leadership, strategy, governance, legal, and technology and professional workforce development. Also, let me speak a little bit more, elaborate a bit more on the leadership, and also about the governance and the technology. So actually the leadership is about the leaders that are the stewards of digital government, digital transformation efforts. They must engage, motivate, build a commitment, and mobilize resources for the successful implementation of a digital strategy. Also, leaders must also craft the plans to achieve organizational goals, as well as communication to stakeholders and monitoring the progress. So about the governance, it's about the organizational capacity and managerial actions developed to overcome potential cultural barriers, implementing the digital strategy across agencies and departments. And also the development of good governance must be aligned with the strategic goals, as well as the legal framework. And also technology is simple. It's about those kind of set of technologies that directly and indirectly contribute to the delivery of programs and services through the digital platform. Next, please. So under this kind of leadership, we have 3 sub-dimensions about vision, policy, and the data. And also on the governance, we have 5 dimensions. On the general, some general questions, on the citizens and business, on the partnership, data part, and also the organization. And also on the technology, again, we also have 4 sub-dimensions. We have some section on general questions, and also citizen and business, and also about the public servants, whether they receive the training, etc. And also about the concerns about on the cybersecurity. So next, please. Thanks to the great efforts by Pine and Dylan, they make a good stylized analysis from responses of our participants. For the leadership part, we have 11 questions. So the summary of the responses on the leadership part is as shown in this slide. I would like to quickly go through it together with you so that it could be significantly facilitate our group discussion. So the first response is that leaders from the organization units in our ministerial agencies are consistently informed and updated about how digital technologies may bring opportunities in transforming the working environment and improving citizen satisfaction. And also second response is that the leadership in their agencies have a clear vision of the role of digital government in their function and services, and how they can support the implementation of the SDGs. Yeah? And also leadership in the ministry have adopted a long-term view of a digital government transformation that is linked to the national Sustainable Development Plan. So this one is very important. Yeah. So because the digital transformation is an ongoing process, it's a long journey. So for a long-term commitment is very important. And also the fourth response is that the ministry have an official who is official assigned as the chief information officer or equivalent. And the fifth is that they have a political commitment to digital government activities, which is continuous and long-term in their ministry and agencies. And the sixth is that the political leaders are supportive of the investments in digital government priorities for our ministry and agencies. This one is also very important. Yeah. So to continuously improve the digital government services, the sustained investment is necessary, and also which requires the adequate funding. So this one is also really important that each year you should have them sustain the investment to continue to improve the public service delivery. And then seventh is that in their ministries, we are capable of establishing an environment enabling innovation and modernization. And also this webinar is all talk about innovation. Yeah. So the ministry should have an enabling environment which can foster the innovation and the modernization. The eighth response is that the digital government champions are recognized and supported by the leadership of our ministry and agencies. This one also is very important that because many countries also, they have like a public service awards, so encourage those kind of innovation, those champions, And ninth is that the ministry have committed the resources for executive and management position in data management, including chief data officer or equivalent. This one also have become increasingly important that because the data become very critical for the data-centric government. And also yesterday, our colleague, Mr. Wei-Ming Kwok, also talked about the data-centric, about the data open government, data governance. Then 10th is about that, that our ministry agencies regularly commit resources to building data management capabilities through the formal training programs. Again, it's also about the focus to upgrading the data management capabilities. And the 11th is that the agencies have effectively implemented a range of standards to support the data management. So you can see among this kind of responses to the 11 questions, several issues is about the data management. Next, please. So this one shows kind of on the leadership, we have in total, I have 11 questions. So we have a 5 level of the answers, either the strongly agree or all the way to the strongly disagree. So for example, from question 4 about whether the ministry have an official with formally signed as the chief information officer or equivalent, you can see that most of the agencies, they have this kind of CIOs. So next, please. So next. So all in all, you can see that among all the 11 questions, for all these kind of responses to 11 questions, the majority of responses, around 57%, agreed with the statements in the leadership dimension, while a third of the responses will strongly agree. Next, please. Now let's look at the governance, the dimension of governance. This dimension has 5 sub-dimensions, and altogether we'll have 20 questions. Let's go quickly also go overview of the group stylized analysis of the responses to the 20 questions. The first group of answer is to the question 1 is that there's a single department unit is in charge of the ensuring that digital governance strategy is being implemented by all departments and units of our ministries, and they have the resources necessary to implement it. If you take a note at this response to the question, is that the digital governance strategy is not just within one unit, but also it's covering all departments and units. And the second question, the group response to the second question is that the ministry have formally established and used an integrated IT governance structure. So this one is very important. It's kind of integrated IT governance structure. So it can help the data sharing, and also ensure that the interoperability of the systems. The third one is about the budget. So you said that they have a regular budget. They regularly have the budget necessary to fully implement the digital government strategy. The group answer to question 4 is that the ministry has effectively implemented a range of standards to support technology decision making. So there's a standardized technology decision making. And also question 5, the group answer is that the agencies have committed ongoing resources to ensuring the government website are user-friendly and meet the international accessibility standards. So there's a continuously updating on the technology side, to have the resources to ensure its government websites are easily to use and easily to access by the citizens. The group answers to the question number 6 is that the agencies follow the standard policy for data acquisition, management, and access. So again, this part is about belong to the area of data governance. So about how to acquire data and how to manage it safely, and also ensure that the right people can have the access. Number 7, the group answer to this question 7 is about the digital strategy, include initiative to develop and deliver more e-services based on a constituents' requests and feedback. So to make sure that the services, the digital strategy can ensure that the more e-services can be provided and delivered based on the needs of the citizens. Yeah, the answer to the group answers to the number 8 question is that the committed ongoing resources to providing online interaction tools to support interaction between government, businesses, and the citizens. So this one is about this, how to say, about the consultation. Yeah, yesterday we also have a discussion about e-participation. Yeah. So question number 9, the citizens are consulted in development of a ministry agency digital governance strategy. Yeah. So the citizen can be engaged in the designing and also in the development of the strategy. The group answer to the question number 10 is that the agencies regularly seeks and acts on feedback from non-governmental users. Again, this kind of about a partnership and a collaboration with other stakeholders, yeah, to ensure that their feedbacks and are duly incorporated in the service designing and the delivery. Next page, please. Also, the question to number 11 question is that the agency effectively uses social media as an outreach tool to the non-governmental users. Yeah. So especially during COVID-19, the social media play a very kind of important role for the citizens to engage with the government. And also question number 5. So the ministry is collaborating with the civil society in developing and implementing the digital governance strategy. This one is also very important. We also always talk about the PPP, you know, so the partnership and a collaboration with other civil society is very important, especially for the innovation. Yeah, we also talk a lot about innovation labs in the past 2 days. Yeah, and also the group answer to the question number 13 is that the ministries or agencies effectively collaborate with the private sector. Again, the collaboration with the private sector is very important, especially the collaboration with the IT sector. Yeah. And also the answer to the question 14 is that the information available on websites is accurate and timely. So this one is very important about the information sharing, and also ensure that the information are authoritative, so that it's important to get the public trust. The answer to the question number 5 is that the agencies that can count on availability of open data portal or open data sets. Yeah. And also this again, the open data portal and open data sets can create public value. And also yesterday we also talked a lot about the importance of open government data. So the group answer to question number 16 is that agency regularly assess whether the information available on the website is useful to non-governmental users. Yeah. So this one is also important. Yesterday, I remember that when Wei-Ming discussed about the data, he also mentioned that we have many data maybe not useful. So that this question is also very important. So we have to ensure that we provide useful information, not those information not useful. Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry. This one is so to assess the range of information, should be available. And also the question to number 14 is that whether the ministry have the committed resources to hire or develop the skilled profession necessary to plan or execute a user-centered digital service e-services strategy. Again, it's very important that the government agencies can have the people with the right skill set to ensure that the digital e-services can be designed, delivered with the citizens' interests at the center. The answer to the number 18 is that whether the ICT personnel have the skills necessary to effectively evaluate vendor proposals. Yeah. So we know that many agencies, they outsource some services to the external parties. Yeah. So to ensure that that the money is spent in the right place. So I think it's very important that the Ministry of the ICT personnel to have the right skills assessed, yeah? Whether the vendors give a good proposal. Yeah. Then the group answers to question number 19 is that whether the personnel have the skills necessary to effectively monitor and evaluate our e-services. Again, this also it's very important. Yeah. So we have to regularly to monitor and also evaluate whether the services are up to the date, and also whether this kind of such as services are needed, and also maybe also we well, how about the user take up of these services? Yeah. And then question number 20, the group answers is that the ministry has the ICT support personnel to accurately meet the needs of the users of e-services. Also, again, that's very important because the government portal have to be 7/24. And also the users may have questions, and also they have feedbacks, and also that the IT support personnel can address the concerns on time. Yeah. So next, please. Also on the governance in total, on the kind of 20 questions, 66% of the participants who answered those questions strongly agree that the ministerial agencies have committed ongoing resources to ensuring its government websites are user-friendly and meet international accessibility standards, which is the question number 5. Yeah. So you can see that among all these kind of 20 questions, yeah, except the question number 9, yeah, question number 9, that the people take no position, yeah, and also question number 17, yeah, people have take no position, yeah. Next, please. Next. So among all these kind of 20 questions, yeah, so almost 2/3 of all responses agreed with the statements in the governance dimension, while 28% will strongly agree. Next, please. Also, let us check again about the group answers to the 21 questions on the technology. So let's review together. The first question is that the answer to the first question is that the government personnel have access to the hardware, software, and the network tools they need to design and implement online public services. This one is very obvious. And the second answer, group answers to the question 2, number 2, is that the ministries or agencies have a strategy that includes multiple channels to deliver services to citizens and businesses. Yeah, this one is very important with multiple channels, especially these days, many countries they also use the social media as a channel to deliver services. And also for those kind of vulnerable groups, they also need, for example, some on-site or some even come to the door services, yeah. The third, the answer to the group answer to the question number 3 is that the government personnel can count on a public institution to manage and supervise the digital solutions designed, adopted by the government, yeah, including manage access to cloud solutions, outsourcing to the third parties. So this one is very important because many countries, they have this specialized government institution who have the sources. For example, in Republic Korea, we have a specialized agency that like a semi-government institution. It's kind of they call it the NIA. It's a National Information Society Agency. And similarly, China, we also has like a National Information Center. Yeah. So this one, government institution is very important. They are specialized in the software sources, yeah, so who can support the digital solutions. Yeah. The answers to question number 5 is that the ministry, the e-services represent an integrated online experience in a way that users do not need to visit a government office or place on a phone call to fully complement the government services. So also this one is about integrated services. It's also about whether the country has an integrated portal, the centralized portal, so the people do not have to visit different places to get their problem solved. The answers to group answers to question number 6 is that most of agencies e-services have been adapted onto mobile access, mobile apps or mobile platforms. Again, this one is become so important for many countries, especially those countries with a quick mobile penetration. The mobile platform it's become so important. Yeah. The group answers question number 7 is that the ministry agencies' ongoing programs to deal with the digital divide issues for our users are transparent, effective. Again, this also is very important. Yesterday, we also talked about the innovation for social inclusion of vulnerable groups. Yeah. So this one, it's also important that they have the initiative to address the digital divide for, and also they have this policy, yeah, and also the initiative to address the digital divide issues of those people who are lacking digital skills and digital literacy. The answers group, the group answers to question number 8 is that the agencies contents or services can be accessed through third-party intermediaries. Yeah. About the citizen developed dashboards or third-party mobile apps. This one has become so important during COVID-19 period. Yeah, government agencies are working together with the private sector and also some youth groups and also some IT sector that quickly come out with solutions for the government, yeah, like social distancing, the apps. Yeah. The answer to question number 9 is that our ministry, the agency's tools to measure client satisfaction of e-service and effective. Again, also this one is very important. Either citizen feedback and also satisfaction. Some country also they conducted the citizen satisfaction survey, so for improve the client's satisfaction to the government services. Yeah. The group answers to the question number 10 is that the government officials have easy access to contact information for other government officials, including email addresses. So again, this one is important for institutional coordination and also for information sharing. If any problem happens, so that I can talk to each other to ensure that the smooth operation of the intersectoral services. Next, please. Also, the group answers to question number 11 is that the civil servants in the ministry can effectively use ICT tools, including application for word processing and data analysis. Again, it's about the skill profile of civil servants in the ministry, whether they can effectively use ICT tools to improve the service to the citizens. The group answers question number 12 is that again, the policymakers in the ministries, effective use IC tools. So again, this kind of up level about this kind of senior management, they also know how to use it. Yeah. Then question number 13, the group answer is that the agency regularly use an independent third party to validate the effectiveness of our adoption and the use of international standards for cybersecurity. So also this one is very important. Yeah. So to ensure that the website is resilient, and because nowadays we heard a lot of cyber attacks on the government websites. So it's important that the government agencies may have an independent third party to validate the effectiveness of the adoption and use of the cybersecurity standards. And then a group answer to the question 14 is that whether the ministry have a chief information security officer, yeah, who specially assigned the responsibility to monitor the security of the websites. The group answers to question number 15 is that the agency have created a risk management committee to assess the potential threats, assess the risks, and development response and mitigation strategy. Again, this one is about the resilience and about the whether the ministry has this kind of such committee to ensure the continuity and also any kind of emergency responses if anything happens. Yeah. So this one is very important to ensure the not only the security but also resilience. Yeah, especially during the emergency situations. Yeah. 16 is the group answer to question number 16 is that the ministry have a cybersecurity strategy. Very good. And then group answer to 17 is that the agency have allocated adequate financial and human resources to identify and managing risks to our assets from cybersecurity threats. Again, this one, because the cyber attacks also every year, they improve their skills, you know, so that also this kind of cybersecurity defense should be also continuing improve the level of to against this such kind of threats. This should be ongoing reviewing. Yeah. The group answer to question number 18 is that whether the agency have cybersecurity training for the staff is also very important. The staff should have the awareness and also the basic skills to know how to avoid the cyber attacks. Yeah. Question group answer to question 19 is that the agency whether have a transparent, effective password policy. Again, this is also very important to avoid the cyber hacks, yeah, and also the attacks. And a question to the question number 20, the group answer is that whether the ministry can count on advanced cybersecurity options such as the biometric systems, cryptograph, and others. Yeah. So yeah, this kind of a cybersecurity measures, you know, it could be should be advanced to contain more how to say more variables to elevate the difficulty that the cyber attacks may find the loopholes. Yeah. And the question number 21st, the group answer is that whether they can count on an internal set of cybersecurity rules and procedures which all civil servants are expected to follow. Again, this one is kind of a training and also capacity of the staff about their skills and also capacity about the cybersecurity, about their understanding, and also whether the observe the cybersecurity rules and the procedures. Yeah. Next, please. So that's the among all the 21 questions. That's the overview, yeah, snapshot, or whether you strongly agree or not. You can see that except the question 5, 6, 7, and the 13, 15, and 18, there's some answers take no position. Otherwise, it's either strongly agree or disagree. For example, for the question number 10, it's about whether the government officials have easy access to contact information for other government officials, including the email addresses. Yeah. So this, from this question, you can see that all participants who replied to answer this question, they all agreed, strongly agreed to that, to this question. Next, please. So here, among all the 21 questions, in overall, is that 46% of all responses agreed the statements in technology dimension, and also 44 strongly agree with that. Yeah, so only 10% of responses are neither agree or disagree. Okay, so that's the overview that of the aggregate results based on the responses of those kind of participants who fill out or do the homework. Yeah. So I hope that after this kind of overview of responses, you can have a better understanding of this of these 3 dimensions. Yeah. And also all these kind of dimensions actually consist of this kind of right strategy, right approaches that the member states are advised to follow. Yeah. So for those kind of participants who have not answered did this exercise, you are strongly encouraged to do the exercise. Of course, because we have 6 dimensions. So when we finish this webinar, when you have time, you're also encouraged to do some self-assessment for other kind of 3 dimensions. Yeah. So now we have some group discussions about this based on those kind of group answers to this kind of questions of 3 dimensions. Yeah. So we can have this kind of a discussion to see, and also based on the action planning that Demise has just elaborated, we can have a discussion to see how we can put advice ideas for the action planning based on opportunities identified during the previous exercise with reference to the quality, responsiveness, whether the people orientation and inclusiveness. Yeah. So Wei-Ming, I don't know how this can prepare. Yeah.
Yes, I have a proposal. We actually do have a group activity towards the end of session 6 that is also looking at key actions. So I think the findings that especially the aggregated results that we have shared is very useful. So what I suggest is that if you could share the slides, if you could share the slide with all the participants and delegates, and maybe some would like to do the exercise if they have not done so, then we can actually do this as a consolidated exercise towards the end of session 6.
Okay, I fully agree. So that these 2 group exercises can be integrated.
Yes, as a point of action points.
Very good, very good. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. So then Yusuf can share this slides who are compiled by Darren and Arpine to our participants. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Wei-Ming. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Ke-Ping, for sharing this comprehensive results. I just like to add on this tool has been used by UNDESA for more than 10 years. It has been updated, revised a couple of times, most recently updated as a DGCA. But many countries have benefited from this tool, and we also like to see your feedback in terms of the usefulness of this tool. With that, as the moderator, I would like to conclude this session 5. My colleague Darren, can you please put up the slides? We have a quick recap of the discussion today. To the first slide. So today's session 5, we look at strategy and action planning for innovation and digital government. The objective is to undertake action planning, and this is further to the session that occurred the last 2 days, especially the one yesterday on design thinking. And the next slide, we first, Darren, to the next slide, please. We had a very interesting presentation and also a very engaged exercise by Demis that's actually shared with us about advancing from design thinking to action, striking the balance, how to take calculated risks, including the careful consideration of trade-off between value and feasibility, and then getting buy-in from leadership, mobilizing resources to implementation. And I think the important lesson learned, especially for myself, is that we have to be deliberate about understanding the importance of making mistakes and taking calculated risks. Following which, we are honored to have the presentation from Ms. Agil Kosher-Boyava, is the newly appointed member of the UN Committee of Experts on Public Administration. He shared an overview of public service delivery in Kazakhstan, including the range of services that are enabled by digital identity and digital signature put in place by the government of Kazakhstan. And finally, we also heard from Kerping that shared the findings, the outcomes based on the collective responses from a lot of participants here about the DGCA, that is in short for Digital Government Capability Assessment, on the 6 dimensions that are leadership, strategy, governance, legal, technology, and professional and workforce developments. As you have just heard, we will share the slides that Kerping just presented with all of you. Please take a look. We hope that you can find it useful, and perhaps that can be used as a guidance when we discuss about the action points towards the end of session 6. The session 6, if Dhiren, you can advance to the slide on session 6, just to introduce to everyone. This will be the last session, and we are hopeful that we can perhaps end a little early for everybody. I know there has been a long 3 days, and thanks to our participants and delegates, it is evening hours for all of you. Thank you for staying up so late. But if all works well, we may be able to end a little early. Session 6 will be the last session, focusing on the next steps that look at institutional, organization, and personal change for digital transformation. We are now at the 7:56 your time. I suggest that we will take a 5 minutes break so that you can not coffee, but if you can take a drink or go to the restroom, and we'll reconvene here in 5 minutes time. But if you are early, if you are back early, we can certainly start perhaps in 5 minutes time, the max. So let's take a break now, and I'll see you online very soon. welcome back, colleagues. If I may, we shall continue with the final session. I can see most of us are here. So let me just do a slow start by introducing the session once again. This is the final session of this 3-day workshop, session 6, focusing on the next steps, especially on institutional, organizational, and personal change. And our colleague Dimis will take us through these 3 different parts. In the next slides, the objective to share with you is that we like to see how we can possibly turn an action plan into concrete change that includes leveraging digital technologies for delivery, focusing on quality, responsiveness, affordability, people orientation, and inclusiveness, and explore the issue of change needed at different levels, including what we just heard on institutional, organizational, and personal change, to promote innovation and digital government transformation, explore ways of achieving change for digital transformation, and linking contextual, organizational, and personal change. And last but not least is to underscore the necessity of making change happen fast. So without further ado, let me once again welcome our dear colleague, Dimis. Over to you, Dimis.
Thank you very much, Wai Min. The topic now is innovation and faster organizational change. And what I will do is speak a little bit about change, then invite you to participate in a poll concerning change and concerning your own situations. And then I will move on to organizational change part 2, which is a how to do it, and then a few words about personal change. So here are some quotes, some things wise people said about change. I'll read just a few of them. Charles Darwin is saying, "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." Then there's Abraham Maslow in the middle on the left, who's saying, in any given moment, we have 2 options: to step forward into growth or to step back into safety. And I'll read out 2 on the right. One of them is from an economist, John Kenneth Galbraith. Faced with the choice between changing one's mind and proving that there is no need to do so, almost everyone gets busy on the proof. And finally, there's a nice little poem by a physicist from Denmark called Piet Hein. The road to wisdom, well, it's plain and simple to express. Err and err and err again, but less and less and less. So you can see that change has many, many dimensions. Now, let me go a little bit into innovation in the 21st century, which is in fact a cycle of accelerating change. If we think about generation of new knowledge, if we think about what it takes for that knowledge to become innovation, there is first a step on to convert the new knowledge into practical new know-how, because knowledge by itself is not value until we make it practical. So we're transforming knowledge into skill or know-how, and then we're deploying, we're using the know-how. And this is what generates value. And of course, we like the value that comes from new things. And then we have a demand for more knowledge and a generation of new knowledge, etc., etc. So it's useful to see it as a cycle of change, but it is also a cycle of accelerating change. I'm not sure if you've seen this diagram before, but it shows various devices and how much time it took to reach 25% of the US population. So the telephone took 30 years. The radio, about 28, television, about 22, 23. PCs, about 20. Mobile phones, about 12 years. And then the use of the internet took under 10 years to reach 25% of the US population. Now, this is the US, but I'm sure it's not identical, but it would be similar in many countries. So I would argue that accelerating change is the new normal. And if we bring ourselves to the pandemic, where the world is living through it, we are living through it in different ways. Pre-pandemic, we had fast change with changes in life and work. My suggestion is that after the pandemic or during the pandemic, there will be even faster change with even deeper transformations in life and work. And in fact, the pandemic is itself a catalyst for speeding up a large number of changes in life and work. Now, we can imagine, we can conceptualize change at 3 levels. The first one I call contextual change. The second one would be organizational change. And the third one would be personal change. I'll go through all of these today. I will focus most on organizational change. Now, contextual change first. Contextual change they are the changes that happen in technology, society, citizens. If you're a private business, your clients, your competitors, your employees are changing the ways of living and working. And this contextual change, it's important to understand that no individual alone can significantly influence contextual changes. Whether you like them or not, they're there. But also, you can't remain indifferent. Nobody can remain indifferent to contextual change. Some examples of contextual change, of big changes, would be in the 19th and 20th century, the advent of electricity. Similarly, in the 20th and 21st century, the World Wide Web. Globalization, which is not strictly just a technical thing. It's technical, it's political, it's social. And I'm offering you a list of new high impact technologies. They are not the only ones. They are the ones we already know about and we're already using to an extent. Artificial intelligence, biotechnologies, which is a huge range of different things, vertical farming, which is one new technology of farming and producing food, feeding the world, and blockchain is another one. And we have many applications of blockchain already, but there are many, many more. This is contextual change. These things are happening whether we like it or not. Climate change, this is completely outside us, or we know that climate change is partly man-made or made by humans, if you like. but it is happening whether we like it or not. It's a contextual change. And so is COVID. COVID hit us. We didn't really expect it. Scientists, experts talked about pandemics and how we might deal with them, but nobody really foresaw the scenarios that the world is experiencing now. Now, let's move to organizational change. Organizational change is integrating new technologies, systems, processes, products, services, but also behaviors and norms in existing institutions, organizations. Now, in contrast to contextual change, this is the kind of change where individuals take responsibility in leading and participating organizational change. It doesn't just happen. It's not just something that we have to adapt to. It's something that we consciously create for 1,000 good reasons. When it's happening, all people in the organization are impacted to a greater or lesser degree. So if we look at digital transformation and digital government, we see a huge potential for value for organizations and those they serve. I will come back to organizational change in a couple of minutes. Personal change, that's the third level of change, if you like, is the change in our mindsets and actions. And I would like us to see it as a change in our mindsets and actions, not people in the abstract, but you and me and everybody present here and everybody not present too. And this is the only change over which every person has a good degree of control. You can control your mindset and actions. You can't control the growth of artificial intelligence or blockchain. You might be able to control or have partial control in the change in your own organization. Now, these three levels of change, they give rise to two questions which I will try to answer. And the first question is, how fast can our organization adapt to contextual change? So it's between the context and the organization. The second question is between the individual and the organization. How fast can we and our people adapt to organizational change? I submit that these two questions are crucial questions. Everybody has limits to the acceptance or adaptation to certain speeds of change. They're not the same from one person to another. They're not the same from one organization to another. But survival obliges us to adapt. So at this point, I would like to focus on the organization. And better still, I would like you to focus on your organizations. So in the first challenge, the first question, how fast can our organization adapt to contextual change? I will ask you to think about your own organization. It might be your team, your department, your ministry, your company, if you're working for an NGO or a non-profit, and the question is, and I'm going to launch a poll in a minute. Which are the greatest, thank you very much, which are the greatest obstacles to innovation or digital transformation in public administration in your country? And I will ask you to check up to 3, but I will read them out one by one so that you think about them before you submit your 1, 2, or 3 ticks. Is it the lack of financial resources? Is it 2, the lack of technical expertise? Is it cumbersome regulations or procedures? Is it politicians? Is it people in public service? Maybe you are part of the people in public service. Is it unwillingness to change? Is it the fear of failure? It's a very human thing. Is it me? And when I say me, think of yourself, you. Am I an obstacle to change? Think about that too. So please, I will ask you to tick 1, 2, or 3 of these boxes. And I think, Diran, you're following the how many people have answered.
Correct.
Great.
And stop the poll and share the results whenever you want. Currently, about 33% responded.
Okay. Do take your time. Because the question is, what are the 3 most important? Please let me know when we're up to 80% of responses.
All right. Currently, we're at 40%.
Yeah.
Dimis, if I can chip in, we are
Yes.
now at 43%, and I also join to echo to invite everyone online to join the poll so that we can look at the collective response here.
Great. So we're nearly half of our participants have submitted a response. I don't know what it is, but I'm eager to find out. Let's give people a couple, give everybody a couple more minutes. It's also possible that speakers or panelists or translators or administrators may not want to offer a vote. I will not offer a vote. So what's the percentage now, Dira?
Currently, it's 45%, 48.
48%. That means if my maths are good, it's about 18 people. No.
15 now.
15, okay.
Now it's also 50 at 50%.
Okay, we're at 50%. if somebody needs 1 more minute, just shout out, I need 1 more minute. Okay, can we now close the poll and
Absolutely.
share the results, please?
Yes. Now
Okay.
you
Yeah.
should be able to see the results.
Right. Everybody should be able to see the results now. And what I am seeing, there is one leader, and they are saying it is lack of financial resources. I appreciate that that can be quite important. I should, though, tell you a story that you can also go a long way with 0 resources. Believe me, you can. But financial resources is also an obstacle. I see that we have in equal second place, there's technical expertise, cumbersome regulations, and unwillingness to change. So if you look at the first 3, these are about finance and technical. I don't see, do I see, is there anybody, I might not be reading this right. There we go. The human ones, unwillingness to change, fear of failure, and somebody, 1 or 2 people did say me or you. Let's go through these in a moment. It's lack of financial resources we talked about. Lack of technical expertise is obviously important as well. You can't do technical things without technical expertise, but you can find technical expertise, you can develop technical expertise, and I'm sure you can get this from the private sector, or you can recruit it. Cumbersome regulations and procedures is a very frequent one for the public service. Well, let me give you a hint. It is also possible to use digital transformation to overcome cumbersome regulations and procedures. And in fact, to an extent, this might be resolved automatically as you take on the digital path in many cases. Okay, we come to the more interesting ones. Now, I'm hearing that this group says it's not the people in public service. It's not us, it's the politicians. I would venture to comment that politicians are often barriers to change, but they can also spearhead change. They are barriers to change if they want to be nice and they want to make themselves popular with public organizations or people in administration. But they can also, if they're true believers of moving forward, of changing, and if the politicians are techies themselves, that helps too. People in public service, I hear that in Central Asia, that's not really an obstacle to change. Okay, I will take your word for it that all of you present and that all of your colleagues are not really obstacles to change. You're all spearheads of change. Now, there are 2, and again, the equal second place is technical expertise, cumbersome regulations, and then 2 human ones, unwillingness to change and fear of failure. And these are very, very human. We all have a fear of failure. Some have a big fear of failure, some have a small fear of failure, but it still is a fear. So we need some sort of leadership which takes the attitude of an explorer who is going into the unknown with confidence, planning, yes, risk-taking too. And we need some leadership as well to drive this unwillingness to change. Change is often discomfort, because tomorrow I will be doing something else with somebody who is different, and I like the old way of doing things. I proved that I was good in what I do. Now you're asking me to do something else. And finally, I see 13%. So that would be about 2 people saying, taking personal responsibility. I am also a barrier to change. And I think it takes some courage and some humility to be able to say this. Because being human, we can be leaders of change, but we have a right to also have our own personal fears. Thank you very much. Shall I close the poll? Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you very much for sharing your views, those of you who participated in the survey, in the poll. Now, change is realized by people. The know-how, the technology, the innovation, these are tools. It is people who make it happen. And in the digital government capability assessment that was presented to you by my colleague just before, the first dimension is a human one, leadership. The last dimension, the 6th dimension, is workforce and their professional development. So let's be aware that change doesn't happen in organizations without people who will lead it. Now, in the world, there are those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who wonder what happened. To an extent, where we are is a choice, to an extent, because in real life, we all make things happen. Some things happen. We all are observers of some change, and we all wonder what happened when something very new and quite fantastic has changed unexpectedly. Let's look at change in the organization a little bit closer. Leaders must have a plan. We talked about this. We talked about the action plan, its various parameters. In the first day, Adriana Alberti talked about the many kinds of levels one has to look at and use and mobilize to build digital transformation capabilities. She argued that we need a holistic approach with systems thinking, strategic framework, also stakeholder analysis, strategy, and an action plan, which is what I was advocating in the previous session today. So you can't do it without a plan. But more important, or equally important to your plan, is how do you mobilize your people? How do you make your people part of the plan? How do you get your people to implement it enthusiastically rather than sit back and say, oh, those managers, again, they're thinking of new things. They don't understand what's going on. So mobilizing people is gaining acceptance for change and generating new learning. And I suggest that you are all senior people in public service, that these dimensions, gaining acceptance for change, generating new learning, is or should be a very important part of your work responsibilities. Then we come to organizing teams for action and ensuring accountability. Remember who is responsible, who's the owner of that, who's actually going to do the task. And finally, if you want the change to last, and if you want to have a further change beyond this, you must genuinely change people's mindsets. And they are changeable. And you have to create a new culture. New culture is new norms, new ways people behave, new sets of attitudes. There is a saying, nobody knows who said it. It's attributed to a very famous management theorist who passed away a few years ago, Peter Drucker. And that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think it's a good one. Culture, in other words, is more important than strategy. Culture is more important than your plan. So what determines culture? What is this thing that we say the organizational culture is very slow, the organizational culture inhibits change? Well, there are three elements that determine an organization's culture. The first one is the context. If you are a cement factory, you have a different culture than if you're an advertising company. If you are the tax department, you will have a different culture than if you are the social services department. So it's the context you are in. Also, the context might also be a country in which the institutions and the people are more open to change compared to a country context which is more conservative. The second one is legacy. What's your organization's history? IBM has been around for over 100 years, nearly 110 years as a company. It has a history, but it changed its culture many times. So our culture, to an extent, is also determined by what we were doing in the past and what made us successful. And the third determinant of culture is leadership, and that's you. And you and your people, I do not use the word the leader, I use the word leadership, because a large number of people, if not all people, have the potential to offer leadership in organizations. Now, here's the news. Can you change the context? No. Can you change your organization's history, your legacy? No. But leadership is the only thing that can shape culture. And a Swedish expert called Göran Eckervall, he maintained, and he was a good researcher, he said leadership can shape up to 80% of culture. Now, if we look at classical approaches for leading change, one of the most popular came from a management writer and researcher, an academic called John Kotter. And he had an 8-step approach, which was a top-down approach. He said, create a sense of urgency. Then you build a guiding coalition, find out who's going to make this change happen. Form a strategic vision and then various initiatives to deliver it. Enlist a volunteer army, figure out those who really want to change and get them to work as volunteers. And then, only then, do you enable action by removing barriers. You don't do it as step one. And when you're creating big change, you need short-term wins. You need to show that you've succeeded in something, raised something from level 0 to level 1 to level 2, etc. A bigger challenge is to sustain accelerated change, and yet an even bigger one is to institute change as a way of life. Now, this is a great approach, but there's more to change. There are contemporary approaches to change, and I would like to spend a little bit of time on these. Contemporary approaches to change accept that there is a top-down element, but they also say change will happen faster if it happens through autonomous problem-solving teams. And of course, we talked about innovation labs, human-centered design thinking to resolve complex problems. This is all about decentralizing the process of change. And I accept it's not easy to do in an organization that might already be quite centralized. My colleague Asset yesterday, I thank him very much because he emphasized that contemporary approaches are agile. He mentioned the word scrum, and I saw the word sprints. These are, I would invite you to research these because these are all approaches that are based on autonomous problem-solving teams. One of them is called Scrum, and it's based on doing sprints, making spurts of activity that create improvements. Another one is Lean. Asset mentioned that as well. And Lean is reducing waste and is based on continuous improvement. Kanban is a methodology, again, of continuous improvement, but reducing and of acceleration. Kanban has an emphasis on accelerated change. Now, another thing that is very important to understand is that when we are trying to mobilize people for change, we have to emphasize emotions and behavior as well as reason and facts. Now, we are in public service. We are not there to deliver fiery political speeches. And however, people are connect much better to something if there is an emotional content. So I'm not saying that you must sell things or convince people of things that are devoid of reason and facts. On the contrary, you need reason and facts. But don't forget the important role of emotions and behavior. And this is why, if you read management literature of the last 20 years, storytelling is a great communication tool. Why? It focuses on human emotions at work. It's more persuasive than just listing facts. And it's more engaging and therefore more memorable. Now, top-down and bottom-up or autonomous approaches, they're synergistic, they're not contradictory. Top-down establishes the importance of a holistic approach to organizational transformation.
Demis,
Yes?
if I may interrupt you, I'm not sure whether if you are going to advance your slides. We are still looking at the slides that talk about culture.
Sorry,
your PowerPoint slides, we are looking at the slides that says culture is strategy. Is that the right slide that we are looking at?
No, no.
Then we are not following your slides.
You're not following my slides.
Yeah,
this
your
isn't
slides. Yes.
You're okay.
Maybe
I will stop sharing.
Issue. Yes, please stop sharing and share again. It could be a technical issue.
I will stop sharing. I apologize because what you are seeing on your screen is obviously not. You were looking at this slide.
No, I know at least a couple of colleagues we are not able to see, so that could happen, and it is a technical issue that happens time to time. But please continue.
Okay. Do you all see determinants of culture?
Yes, we do now. Determinants of culture. We see that
and
slide now.
That was the one that where you froze. Your screens froze on.
In fact, the slide earlier, the quote by Peter Drucker on culture is strategy.
Okay. Just very quickly, then I'll run through Kotter's top-down process. You can read the slide, creating urgency, building a coalition strategy, enlisting volunteers, then removing barriers, short-term wins, and eventually instituting change as a way of life. And then I went on to contemporary approaches. Are my slides changing now?
Yes, yes.
Great. Great.
Continue.
So the contemporary approaches, they emphasize autonomous problem-solving teams. And I gave you a few approaches, which were also very well presented yesterday by Asset. I argued that storytelling is a strong communication tool because when we're trying to change mindsets, connecting with people at the level of emotions and behavior is as important as connecting on the basis of reason and facts as well. And I was here when you told me that you had frozen, your screens were frozen. The top-down and the bottom-up approaches, the Kotter approach of a way of implementing change top-down, and the autonomous teams approach, they're not contradictory. They should be synergistic. The top-down approach establishes the fact that especially digital transformation, digital government, calls for a holistic approach. You have to look at the whole thing, not just its little parts. The bottom-up approach recognizes the value of people, of all people, as innovators and instigators of change. And if you want to make digital transformation happen faster and more effectively, the best is to blend the two approaches, top-down and bottom-up. So if I go back to the assessment that was presented a little earlier, the human dimensions of the DGCA, actually, Digital Government Capability Assessment. Leadership sets strategy using a systems-driven approach based on principles, values with a clear framework, analysis and action planning. And the workforce, which is the sixth dimension of the assessment that you all took, with new learning and new training contributes through collaborative and creative problem solving. So I submit that this is the best plan to organizational transformation. And I'd like to finish this part of the presentation. Leaders must themselves face the unknown. Who are the leaders? You. We. So we have to be ready to face the unknown. There will be things we don't really know, we don't really expect, that will happen. Let's learn to do this. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thanks, Dimis. I believe our colleagues, participants here will share my view that your insights and presentation that I did very interesting. A lot of points that we may come across in one way or other, but we may not have fully internalized, but the way that you presented it is actually very much captured the points. I discussed with colleagues here, we are going to make a slight change in the program. We will skip the next break. And that means, Dimis, we are inviting you to share your final presentation or final, that what you call tips about personal change. And following which, we will have a breakout group discussion that I mentioned earlier. The discussion will focus on 4 to 5 key actions at the individual, organizational, and institutional level. So I hope that participants can benefit from the slides and presentations shared by Dimis Yu as well as our colleagues earlier this morning. So that will be the last activity for today before we move on to the closing. Dimis, do you think you can do your final presentation about personal change before we move on to the group activity?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So if you remember the 3 levels of change, we talked about organizational change. Now there's this personal change. And I finished by saying, leaders, we have to learn to face the unknown. Now, I will give you some tips for personal change. And these are a response to the question I asked before in my presentation: how fast can we and our people adapt to organizational change? And I will offer you 4 tips for personal creative change. And some of them come with a story. The first story, and it is said that this is a real story, says, how can you, is a question, sorry, that was asked in the final exams of the first year of a university faculty of physics. How can you measure the height of a high-rise building using a barometer? And students had to answer this question, and one student wrote, I will tie it to a rope and hang it from the top. And then I will measure the rope. I will tie the barometer to a rope. And his professors said, you fail. That's not how to do it. So the student complained, and he was a good student. So the professor said, okay, we'll give you a second chance. And they called him in, 2 professors, 1 student, and they said, you have 15 minutes to answer the question, how can you measure the height of a high-rise building using a barometer? It was a high-rise building that was close to the university. So after 10 minutes, the student had written nothing. 11 minutes, 12 minutes, 13 minutes, the student was not writing anything. After 14 minutes passed, one of the professors got up and said, you realize we're going to fail you again. And the student said, my problem is not to give you an answer, but it's which is the best answer to give you. What do you mean, said the professor. Well, he said, I gave you one answer, tie it to a rope and hang it from the top. You didn't accept that, but there are many more answers, he said. I could do it with trigonometry. My barometer is 30 centimeters high. I can plant it parallel to the building on a sunny day and look at the shadows of the building and the shadows of the barometer, draw an imaginary line from the top of the building to the top of the barometer to the ground, And with simple trigonometry, I can find the height of the building. The theory of similar triangles. But I could also go up to the top of the building, to the roof, and drop the barometer and measure the time it takes to hit the ground. The acceleration of gravity is constant, so I will give you the height of the building. I can also measure the atmospheric pressure at the top and at the ground level, make the calculation. Maybe that's the answer you're looking for, but there are more answers, he said. I could take the barometer and go in the inside staircase of the building. And because it's 30 centimeters, I will put my barometer 30 centimeters and then another 30 and another 30. It will take me a long time because it's 12 floors, this building, he said, but I will give you the height of the building. But I think, he said, the best answer is I will take the barometer to the concierge and say, if I give you a barometer, will you let me see the plans of the building? And this story, it is said that the student in question was Niels Bohr, who went on to get a Nobel Prize. He's from Denmark. He has a Nobel Prize in physics in 1922. And tip number one is most problems have many solutions. So do not stop at the right solution is this. Some problems have only one solution, but most of the problems of change that we are dealing with, they have many solutions. Seek many solutions before you make a selection. Now, the second story, the second tip comes with a story as well, but it's a different story. This is a story about a banker, an entrepreneur, and a frog. The banker and the entrepreneur are walking along the banks of a river, and a little frog comes jumping towards them. And the frog says, please, please, can one of you take me with him and take me to your house and offer me food and look after me, nourish me, and I will grow. And after exactly 1 year, you will give me a kiss and I will become a very handsome and rich prince. And I will reward you with lots of money. I will make you a very, very rich man. So the entrepreneur immediately grabbed the frog and put the frog in his pocket. And the banker started laughing at him. He said, ha, do you really believe that when you kiss the frog, it will turn into a prince? Are you stupid or something? And anyway, would you really want to kiss a frog? And the entrepreneur said, no, he said, of course, I don't believe that he will transform into a prince. But imagine what you can do with a frog that can speak. And this brings me to tip number 2. And tip number 2 is imagine. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And it takes a mindset, it takes practice to mobilize the imagination that you and you and you and that all of us have. We can strengthen it and we can make a deliberate effort to change the way we look at things. And if you do it systematically, it becomes a habit, and it's a good habit. Tip number 3 is one word: courage. What is courage? What is courage was the subject of an entrance exam in France, and students had 1 hour to develop this subject. What is courage? They had to write an essay. And one student wrote, "This is courage." Just 3 words, and he handed in his paper and left after half a minute. And it is to the credit of his professors that they gave him full marks. Because with 3 words and with an action, he had responded to the question much better than any essay of 300 or 500 or 1,000 words. I said 4 tips. The 4th tip is very much a personal tip. It comes from Gandhi. Be the change you want to see in the world. You have to invest yourself personally in the change you want to create, in the digital transformation you want to bring to your organization, to your team, to your country. And the tip, if I articulate it differently, it is take responsibility for your own creativity. Be the change you want to see in the world. And with this, I would like to once again thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. Thanks, Dimis, for sharing these 4 tips or the 4 interesting stories. I believe now all of participants like myself, we have 4 stories that we can tell when we are qualified to do so eventually. With that, I'd like to again on behalf of everyone here to give a round of thanks to Dimis for all the presentations. And I'd like to advance to our last activity for this 3-day workshop. Dhiren, if you can bring up the moderator slides. I believe it's slide 12. While Dhiren is bringing up the slide, I just like to quickly capture the discussion this morning. We look at putting into action, how we advance from design thinking to action. Then we also have the presentation from our SEPA member. And just earlier, we heard about these 3 levels of change from Dimis, from contextual change to organization change or institutional change, as we in the UN we relate to because of Goal 16. And the 3rd level is the personal change and the relationship between these 3 levels of change. So in this group discussion, you can draw your insights not just only from today's presentation and discussion, but also the past 2 days. If as a group, if you can discuss the 4 to 5 key actions, and this can be at the individual, organizational, institutional levels that your institution could take over the next 6 to 12 months and beyond to promote innovation and digital transformation in support of sustainable development. We will have a 20-minute group discussion that our colleagues Yusuf and Dhiren can break you into groups like what you had in the past 2 days. After which I actually request one representative from each group to share your conclusion on these 4 to 5 key actions with the rest of the team here, if you agree. So I will also copy this question, these questions in the chat, so that you will know the question to be asked when you are in your respective group. I think I just done that. So yes, Yusuf and Dhiren, if you can help us with the breakout group.
Hi, Waimin. I will open the rooms now, all the rooms.
Right, thank you. The time now is I believe it's 9 p.m. your time. We will end the breakout discussion at 9:20 sharp. And we have a debrief of about 5 to 10 minutes, following which we will do the conclusion. I believe we should be able to end 15 minutes to 20 minutes earlier than as scheduled. So please join the breakout discussion, and we hope to hear from you in 20 minutes time. Welcome back, everyone. We have reduced the time for this discussion with some feedback from colleagues. So I hope nonetheless that you have a good discussion. We do encourage you to have a follow-up in your separate teams. But let us hear from the 3 country teams. As I mentioned, we like to hear one representative from each of the 3 country teams. And if I may, I would suggest that we go by alphabetical order of the country. So can we first hear from a representative from the country team of Kazakhstan? After Kazakhstan, we will hear from Kyrgyzstan and finally Uzbekistan.
Yeah, thanks. Я так понимаю,
Асет Нурланович, Саламатство. Ага. Саламатство. Спасибо, что подключились. Мы сейчас вот подводим итоги наших обсуждений в группах. Сейчас должны выступить наши коллеги с Казахстана, Кыргызстана и из Узбекистана. Дать свои фидбэки к вопросу. Как раз был вопрос, звучал интересный. Основываясь на выводах этого вот семинара, 4-5 ключевых наших групп должны были обсудить, могла бы предпринять, какие меры могла бы предпринять ваша организация в следующем году и в последующий период для продвижения инноваций и преобразования цифрового правительства в поддержку целей устойчивого развития. Вот, и нам сейчас было бы интересно послушать как раз коллег стран-братьев наших, как они считают, что нужно сделать в следующем году, чтобы развивать цифровую трансформацию.
Все, отлично, отлично. Ну, для начала просто хотел, раз я уже так ворвался, поприветствовать всех. Вижу тут знакомые лица, очень рад видеть. И рад, что пандемия, несмотря на то, что вносит свои коррективы, не ломает дух, так скажем, сотрудничества и взаимоотношений. Ну, не буду задерживать, давайте послушаем тогда коллег, а потом, я так понимаю, заключительное слово за мной. Да?
Да, за вами и за господином Макаром.
Все отлично.
Thank you, Excellency Ministers, for joining us. We look forward to have you at the closing. Shall we have a colleague from the Kazakhstan team to share with us very briefly? And of course, you may speak in Russian, since we still have our interpreters with us who have been doing a great job, not just today, but for the past 2 days. Our colleague from Kazakhstan.
Yes, Асет, команда Казахстана. Вы слышите? Асет Досымханов. I think they are having some technical issues and trying to come.
Слышно, да, сейчас?
Connect. Yes, да, мы вас слышим.
Okay. Yeah, okay, sorry, there was some issues with the source of the voice. Okay, so we now consider that our major actions come to the 9th initiatives that come to sustainable development is under industrialization, innovation, and infrastructure. And basically what we aim to do is just to launch innovation lab as a tool, just to, to pilot, incorporate interested parties to increase the efficiency of the governance and the services provided, probably, as our colleagues mentioned, just to get out of the box of this glass box, just to create some cases, successful cases, hopefully, and further just scale up this methodology to other ministries and government agencies. So the second part comes with the idea to help an accelerator in digital transformation and come up with the idea to create community of trainers and to provide them a sufficient amount of knowledge and competence in design thinking and change management, and try to pilot and run some programs and check it out, how it will help, and this experience can help us to understand the main constraints under the several levels of the governance, how we come up with solutions within central government bodies and even in mayor's offices at all layers. So that's two cases that we plan to do, and what we agreed by now, probably we'll increase this action plan further by inviting more stakeholders. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And next, can we hear from our colleague from Kyrgyzstan?
Здравствуйте, уважаемые коллеги.
Yes, please.
Меня зовут Чингис, Кыргызстан. Все мы говорим об услугах, о том, что мы предоставляем услуги в электронном формате, также предоставляем какие-то проактивные услуги, которые для граждан это очень удобно. Но в будущем, или в ближайшие годы мы хотели бы перейти на уже не предоставлять, гражданам не запрашивать услуги, а уже госорган сам может запросить через систему межведомственного электронного взаимодействия какое-нибудь гражданам предоставлять услуги. А также не только усиливать информационные технологии, а также усиливать человеческие ресурсы по цифровым навыкам граждан Кыргызской Республики. Имеется в виду граждан по повышению квалификации сотрудников, которые работают по государственной сфере, по цифровизации, которые разрабатывают инновационные системы для граждан, для внутренней части государства. Да? И хотелось бы еще сказать то, что в будущем я считаю то, что Big Data это очень такое большая тема, где можно развивать системы национального мониторинга, где через данные системы можно управлять, смотреть, да, главы государства могут смотреть, какой госорган, либо какой из бизнесов, прибыль какой, расходы какие, и, соответственно, управлять этим в онлайн-режиме, не только в режиме, классическом режиме, а он может и управлять в онлайн-режиме. Это все, я считаю, уже ближайшие перспективы наших стран. И спасибо.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing this very much forward-looking idea on providing service on demand, enhancing the human digital capacity, and explore on the big data initiative. Last but not the least, can we hear from the team of Uzbekistan, please?
Yes, we have our colleague from Uzbekistan, Бахтиёр Угламов. Бахтиёр, вы слышите?
Yes,
здравствуйте, уважаемые участники. Позвольте выразить благодарность за приглашение за такое интересное мероприятие. Очень полезное для себя делали выводы. Наши цели, основные цели устойчивого развития мы себе после данного мероприятия определили некоторые моменты. Например, первый, мы усилим свою роль в развитии электронных услуг. На следующий год мы планируем уже довести перевод в электронный вид уже более 70% услуг, которые в традиционном виде оказываются, и внедряем больше не только электронные, а проактивные услуги, чтобы услуги сами находили свои потребители, чтобы было удобно всем населением и субъектам предпринимательства пользоваться ими. Следующее направление мы большое внимание будем уделять на IT-образованию, повышение квалификации населения, пользоваться электронными услугами. IT-образование у нас во всех регионах сейчас открыты уже IT-центры, чтобы могли обучить население IT-навыкам. А дальше мы у себя планируем создать некий такой учебный центр IT-центр, чтобы тут мы могли повышать квалификации госслужащих, чтобы они умели пользоваться определенными возможностями, IT-технологиями, которые у нас внедряются. Следующее направление мы дальше будем развивать IT-индустрии. Для этого у нас существует IT-парк. Мы там даем много привилегий для IT-разработчиков компаниям. И мы дальше хотим, чтобы их тоже привлечь в развитие электронных услуг. И чтобы не только госорганы занимались переводом в электронный вид, а частные субъекты предпринимательства тоже они могли бы заниматься данной деятельностью и как бы тоже показать содействие и получать прибыль в этом направлении тоже. Это все. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you. Thanks. Again, just I'm not attempting to summarize, but what I hear interesting is that you're focused on anticipatory services or transparent blended services. You're to focus on build digital literacy, building a digital center of excellence, as well as the platform of for the IT industry in partnership with the private sector. So with that, we conclude this important group exercise. I hope that your action point will be put into good use and to realization in the near future. With that, I would like to hand the floor back to our overall organizers, Apine and Aya. Over to you to proceed with the concluding session. Back to you, please.
Thank you, Fahmin. I'd like to take the opportunity and thank the country teams, first of all, for very interesting inputs and their active participation through these 3 days of workshop. I know that it's been late hours for you in the evening, and we very much appreciate the time that you gave it to this workshop. We hope that the content will be useful for you, and then you will be able to utilize it in your work and professional development. Before I give the floor to Vincenzo Acquaro, who is the chief of the digital government branch at UNDESA, I'd like to ask my colleagues to open the poll for evaluation. We created evaluation in Russian so that it's easier for you to read and then respond. And I would like to ask interpreters, if possible, in the channel for English speakers to just read it out, questions for them. We'll give it a couple of minutes for you to complete the evaluation, and right after that, I will invite Vincenzo for his concluding remarks. The poll is open, so please go ahead with the evaluation. Dear Ren, I would appreciate if at some point you let us know what percentage of participants has already completed with the evaluation.
It is 44%. 44%.
44, спасибо.
Ответили.
Let's give it a couple of more minutes.
Коллеги, прошу вот проголосовать и ответить на вопросы. Понравился ли вообще вам семинар? Насколько семинар соответствует вашей работе, содержанию? 48%. Все у нас прошли, все 3 дня. Все 3 дня прошли очень интересно. Спасибо замечательным спикерам, Димису, экспертам. Очень интересные презентации. 48. I think most of participants voted.
Please let me know when to close the poll. If you see
48, it's still at 48, and I think most of participants are voted. I think we can close the poll.
Okay. Last couple of seconds. Yes, done. Thank you very much for also expressing your views and feedback. I think we will be able to share the results, I believe. So I will read only the highest percentages, the red ones, and we'll analyze the feedback later for our work as well. So 62% of the participants found that the content and workshop was useful for them, and some 38% voted that it's very useful. They also mentioned that practical activities and group work has been also very important, about 46% each, very important and important. The next question, whether they have been happy with the visual and audio materials presented. Again, we have 62% of participants considering it useful, about 38% very useful, as well as we see that how likely it is that they will use the methodology and the concept of the workshop in their work. 62% voted that they will be using it. Another 31% mentioned that they will probably use it. They will use it. About 8% that they hardly believe that they will use it. That's a very interesting feedback. Thank you for it. We'll analyze it further. We can close the evaluation now. And I'm happy to give the floor to Vincenzo Acquaro, Chief of Digital Government Branch at UNDESA, for our concluding remarks. Vincenzo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Arpine. And this is really a tough task for me, because, please do not ask me to summarize 3 days of an incredible and very rich workshop. So I'm sure, and I can tell you that this wonderful team that have been coordinating and organizing this workshop is also working on the preparation of the report that we are going to share with all the participants. So more detailed information and key insights, and also all the material that was produced during these 3 days will be available for all. Of course, also the team will be available to provide more information and to continue this collaboration with all of you. But some key points I think is really important to highlight. But first of all, let me say that it was really a great opportunity also for me first, and I do believe my team, to learn a lot from you. This is because when it was also part of the discussion during these 3 days that when we work together and when we are all together, there is this, I don't remember now exactly the terms in English about this intelligence, that there is a way to strengthen the intelligence when so many people are working together on these items. And it was also very important for us to know more about the countries in the region, in the Central Asia region, how they are, first of all, working more closely on digital transformation. And there were amazing presentations, very detailed, that will be very useful also for our work. And also which are the challenges and the priorities. So on the first day, and we had at the opening, an outstanding panel of high-level people. So the opening started with a statement from the Minister of Digitalization and Innovation, the aerospace industry of Kazakhstan, His Excellency Muhsin. We also have our Undersecretary General, Mr. Liu, that was highlighted the potential of digital transformation during the pandemic and the importance of moving forward and bridging the digital divide. We also have vice ministers from Tajikistan, from Tajikistan, and also we had there is a clear realization that the countries have to make digital products and services more accessible, taking into account also the UN Secretary General Roadmap for Digital Cooperation that emphasizes the need for digitalization to promote sustainable development. Then we move on the creation of innovative ecosystem for digital transformation. We were more in that, and we learned a lot from the ministers during the opening sessions. There is a need to create innovative ecosystems, and this is also a priority for Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. We have seen that also the strategic importance on investing in digital skills. All countries have demonstrated the determination to increase investment in human capital and digital capacities, and also in making connectivity effective, affordable, and high quality. Connectivity is really, and the principle of leaving no one offline is important in order to also strengthen digital skills. We had a presentation from country teams from Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan that attested to the attention taken by the countries in Central Asia to invest in digital skills. Also, we had Tajikistan reported on establishing a lab teaching children how to use AI through weekly educational programs. So really, and then we went through country examples of innovation and collaborations, and your participation was really very important and very interesting also for us. We realized that the government make better use of their data too, that we have seen during country presentation also the use of big data and smart data. That was also in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. In Tajikistan, a Center for AI and Innovations deals operated together with international organizations. Then we moved to promote digital transformation and inclusions. And from our colleagues from UMPOG, we knew more about the multiple ways that digital innovation can and does to help to create people value and address complex social issues. we have also learned that innovation labs and design thinking become important enablers and facilitators for vulnerable groups. More and more countries are leveraging traditional and emerging new technology to further enhance digital skill for vulnerable groups. And also digital development asks the government to rethink how they contribute value among people, rethinking the organizational model, focusing even more on people. And then the last day, from planning to implementation, from thinking to action. We had heard from our consultant how to identify the criteria for the best solutions. We have to think about the value and about the feasibility, but also we need to do some risk evaluation. No solutions come without risk. And we went through prototypes to test and to better fine-tuning the final solution, but also we got some good inputs to design an action plan, and the importance of conducting a cost-benefit analysis before moving forward with implementation. But really the key message is we cannot avoid taking risks, but we need to manage them. And again, we learn from Dimis on the importance of changing the mindset if we want to take advantage from innovation. Innovation requires a culture of change, but we also learn it is not only about organizational change, but first we have to start from personal change. We had also had a very in-depth breakout discussion, and all of you shared your feedback and your experience with us. So I want really sincerely say that this workshop was also, as I said at the beginning, a great opportunity for us to learn more about the impressive digital transformation that is happening in the region and in your countries, and to focus more on your priorities and your challenges. I really also hope, and we, my team also hope, that this workshop was a good opportunity also for you to strengthening cross-country collaboration and to share knowledge and experience. So we really would like that this workshop is not just a standalone initiative, but is an opportunity to strengthen the collaboration in the region and with us. But before now giving the floor to the Vice Minister of Digital Development, Innovation and Aerospace Industry of the Republic of Kazakhstan, Mr. Asset Turisov, first for his closing remarks, I really want to thank, on behalf of my department, all the participants of this workshop. It was really a long 3 days discussion, and the success of this workshop could not be happened without your incredible support, participation, and contribution. A warm thanks to the team and our co-organizer and host from the Ministry of Digital Development, Innovation, and Aerospace Industry of the Republic of Kazakhstan and from ZERTE. Also a great thanks to the translators and all the outstanding speakers and experts and moderators, and thanks to the whole DPIDG team and UNPOG colleagues. But last but not least, the two key pillars of this workshop, I really want to thank personally Arpine and Aya to make this workshop happen. Thanks a lot. And with this, it is my great pleasure and privilege to give the floor to Mr. Asset Turisov, the Vice Minister of Digital Development, Innovation and Aerospace Industry of Republic of Kazakhstan, for his closing remark. His Excellencies, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your speech. Хотел бы сказать, что очень рад вас видеть, несмотря на то, что мы последний раз встречались офлайн. Жизнь вносит свои коррективы, но тем не менее очень радует, что несмотря на это мы как никогда проявили вот сегодняшними тремя днями, сессиями, делением опытом сплоченность перед пандемией, поскольку говорили о важных вещах в плане развития госуслуг, построении, делением опыта, видением дальнейшего устойчивого развития, в особенности в Центральной Азии. Здесь 3 дня пролетели достаточно, я так думаю, быстро. Было очень много интересного, действительно невероятного. Много докладов, спичей, которые вдохновили, где-то заинтересовали, где-то внесли свою полезность. Я думаю, что это, конечно, в первую очередь благодаря, хотел бы поблагодарить коллег СООН, коллег наших гостей, тех, кто спикеров, коллег уже с Зерде, конечно, наших гостей и других коллег с других стран, с Кыргызстана, Узбекистана, с Таджикистана, и вот переводчиков то же самое. Конечно, коллег с нашего Зерде, еще раз повторюсь, за такую большую проделанную работу и за площадку, которая была организована в это сложное время. Тем не менее, хотел бы сказать, что госуслуги, цифровизация госуслуг и сами госуслуги для Казахстана это очень такая каждодневная, актуальная тема. Она всегда стоит в повестке как и главы государства, так и на уровне правительства. И вплоть до того, что это точка соприкосновения, когда государство оказывает сервисы своим гражданам, населению, и точка соприкосновения, взаимодействия именно непосредственно с людьми, ради которых государственные сервисы и созданы. В первую очередь, что могу сказать? Здесь мы стремимся, сами как Казахстан, пользуясь случаем сказать, к переходу, к проактиву. Мы видим будущее в том, что каждый гражданин – это индивидуальная личность, у него есть индивидуальные жизненные ситуации, и он может делать, сегодня стать бизнесменом, завтра пойти учиться. И мы считаем, что госуслуги должны быть проактивными. И там, где они необходимы, где нужна поддержка государства, они должны быть рядом, доводиться сразу. Где-то автоматом, где-то проактивно, где-то подсказкой, поскольку уровень компетенции тоже не у всех достаточно высок. Ну и человек может, и ему нет необходимости нарабатывать определенные какие-то компетенции для того, чтобы понимать, как получить ту или иную услугу. Цель, мне кажется, такова у государства, что в дальнейшем оно должно стать чисто бэк-офисным, проактивно все оказывать и предоставлять. Гражданин не должен, не утруждая себя, получать все, что необходимо, и все, что положено с законом. Но, говоря, тут очень важно на этой встрече, это международное взаимодействие, фундамент того, что цифровизация позволяет ломать рамки, и то, что сегодня мы вот услышали коллег с ООН, коллег с Узбекистана, Кыргызстана, Таджикистана и других стран, мы видим то, что все мы развиваемся, цифровизация ломает эти границы, и я думаю, что цифровое пространство и в Центральной Азии должно в дальнейшем интегрировано быть между собой, чтобы это можно было сделать, чтобы гражданину Узбекистана было удобно в Казахстане, гражданину Казахстана было удобно в Кыргызстане. Это все можно сделать, было бы желание. Поэтому хотел бы сказать, что поблагодарить еще раз всех организаторов за то, что в такое сложное время, несмотря ни на что, смогли организовать. Поблагодарить всех гостей, что смогли принять участие, несмотря на то, что есть разница во времени, есть все мы понимаем, что все заняты, но тем не менее для меня этот форум еще один показатель того, что несмотря на такую глобальную проблему в виде пандемии, мы люди, как государство, стремимся развиваться, делиться опытом, общаться, делиться теми решениями, которые помогают нам решать задачи для улучшения жизни людей и повышения их благосостояния. Если позволите, с вашего разрешения, хотел бы тогда уже приступить к логическому завершению такого всего мероприятия. Я очень надеюсь, что мы пройдем сквозь пандемию все здоровыми, чтобы и близкие ваши тоже были здоровы, и встретимся в офлайн режиме здесь, в Нур-Султане, либо в Алмате, в Казахстане, либо в другом месте, но уже за чашкой кофе и с беседой о том, как мы будем дальше развивать нашу отрасль. Спасибо большое. Всем спасибо.
Большое вам спасибо.
Рахмет.
Рахмет. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
До свидания. До свидания. Большое всем спасибо.
Спасибо, коллеги.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Bye.
Be healthy, everyone, please. Take your care.
How about the group photo?
Yes, if I can ask everyone, can
you
switch
open
on the
cameras?
camera? We can have a group photo.
Okay. Just 1 second.
One.
I think we have 2 pages.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Who is taking picture? One.
I will take a couple of pictures too, but yeah, we have 2 pages.
Second page. Cheese. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, bye.
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 Bye, Demis.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Facebook finished, Yusuf.
Thank you, guys.